Hello everyone, welcome back to the TJOmega channel for day 1754 of our daily content grind. So, it is July, it's the 1st, welcome to another month, and it's time for another Q&A video. If you've never seen one of these before, get ready for a very long video you might be keeping in the background as a podcast. If you want to leave a question for next month, please, by all means, leave it in the comment section, and keep in mind, there are ground rules to these things. It will be pinned at the top of the comment section, but just in case, please keep it to one question per person. Please keep it very short and sweet. I need punchy questions with that are not like entire novels. Please make it something that I can answer quickly. Like I will not conceive an entire series on the spot for you. I will not come up with an entire roster of characters. And there's a few topics we've talked to death, which means I will not be speaking of them. I'll ask you not to ask, which would be anything Gundam, anything Gun Megatron. There's a few others. Like I said, there's a pinned post for it. But all that said and done, let us get to whatever questions got asked to me over the course of the last month. Starting with the most recent one. I've been thinking about downsizing my collection. I have an unopened Siege Jetfire. Will I regret it if I sell it? I think I should. If you think I should keep it, please give me a convincing argument. If I sell it, I'll probably never buy another. So this is down to you and your priorities. I don't know how long you've had it sealed. I mean, if you've had it sealed since Siege and you've never felt the temptation to open up, I can't imagine you would regret selling it at this point. I'm thinking about it now. Like, if you care about having a complete scale matched collection, then Siege Jetfire is going to be literally the only Jetfire toy in the Generations lineup. So if you want a full cast of Autobots in Generation style, you're going to have to open that toy and put it on display. But if all you care about is having a representation of the character, you've already got the G1, you've got the Masterpiece, there really isn't a reason at that point. So it really just depends on your personal preferences and priorities. But for me, if it's been sealed for that long and I felt no urge or compulsion to open it, I think it'd probably be good to let it go at that point. Especially if I had that MP. Like that's not a bad replacement toy. What are your thoughts on the Reckless Ben situation involving Star Wars, Legos, and bricks and minifigs? It is wild how deep that has gone. You have got corrupted cops getting in on it, what is essentially just a Lego store. And honestly, at this point, I have no idea. Like, I haven't seen any recent updates on it, but man, the upper branch of bricks and minifigs just needs to pay out whatever is owed in monetary just to end this. This should have been squashed the second it came up. Nope. Is still ongoing as far as I'm aware, and it just gets more and more ridiculous. And Bricks and Minifigs is like a big chain company. It's making literally the entire company look horrible. They need to pay it off just to end it before it gets any worse. But even then, their reputation is dust. There's not going to be a point of recovery. Sorry if this question is too broad, but I was wondering, what are some of your favorite peaceful moments from Transformers? My favorite is probably when Beachcomber finds the Golden Lagoon. We don't get a whole lot of just nice, peaceful moments in Transformers because it's so focused on war, battle, combat, rivalries. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I like any of those scenes in like the original G1 cartoon that humanizes Optimus or the Autobots in general, like where they're learning how to play football or basketball. There's a little moment in an episode where Optimus is practicing spitting a ball on his finger while in his own spare time. It was like he's having fun himself, and I think that gives so much more humanity to Optimus Prime. It's a sorely lacking element in a lot of major depictions these days. That there is like this more jovial, more fun side of Optimus he never lets out. As far as anything else, like peaceful moments, man, they are few and far between, aren't they? They are few and far between. There's a lot of chaos that goes on in these. I think a scene I think back to, if we're dealing with like pieces and there's no like real combat or anything, I think back to the Windblade comic, and especially when she is running for rulership of Cybertron. And the scene where she's meeting with people one by one in a bar has so many good moments. Like the moment where like Knockout admits he's only here because his husband enjoys it. When you see Brawl with his little he doesn't have like some serious like crude oil beverage. It's just this like fruity little cocktail. I'm not fruity derogatory. Literally, it looks like a fruit drink. Those kind of moments, like I really like the moments in there because there's a lot more levity, and you realize that like these are people. You know, you focus too much on the war and combat side of things, you lose the idea that these are actual people with lives. How do you like your Tokusatsu monster of the week? An individual entity of the enemy faction or a human victim forced, coerced into being one? So it really does just depend on what serves the story better. I've seen both be really good for a story. I've seen both kind of be bad for a story. I think ultimately I like the monster of the week being like a part of like a enemy faction because you can add more history and character to that than you can say, you know, like a Yummy that just sprouted out of somebody and has only existed for a few hours before O's gives them the big slash, you know. So I prefer that. I think there's more storytelling potential when they've already existed. Between Beast Machines and Energon, which toy line do you think needs to have modern generation updates more? It's kind of not fair because there are elements of both series that I think need modern generations updates more than others. Like, I think Omnibots would be a great replacement for the mini bot deluxes we've been getting. We still want smaller mini bots that come with like a bunch of accessories. Those are Omnicons. They're straight up Omnicons. And then for like Beast Machines, I mean, I'm hard pressed to think of a Maximal I want a toy of. But man, do I want every Viacon? I do think there's more hits in Energon than there are in Beast Machine. So if it's an either or situation, I will go with Energon. Do you have a favorite category or gimmick of Transformers like Titan, Combiners, Cassette Bots, etc.? Headmasters. I think it not only allows them to get rid of an element of the engineering that lets the toy get away with a little bit more as far as transformation scheme goes. They don't have to figure out what the head does. I love the idea of adding a pilot aspect to the vehicle mode. It makes it feel more like a playable toy vehicle and thus gives me more reason to transform it into a jet, tank, car, whatever it happens to be. You know, I really, really liked Titan's Return, where we got to have a bunch of those, and they had a lot of good play value because of it. Triple changing would be a second, because I do really like getting like more than one vehicle mode out of a toy. It's never completely smooth, but it's always interesting. If Hasbro Takara decided to do Energon Optimus as a commander class figure, do you think he could work like the current combiner figures with his trailer forming a frame and the drones attached to? I don't necessarily think you need that for Energon Prime because his combination method is so different. You would want to create it to be as accurate to the original as possible. People would want it to combine the way that it did originally, and you can still make that happen. The reason we have frame combiners now is because it's literally the only way to recreate the Sunbow combiner design style and still make these viable figures that break down into individual aerial bots, stunticons, whatever. It's for the sake of cartoon accuracy. If they were to do it with Energon Optimus, I think you could just improve the engineering from the original combination and you'd probably be good. If you could create a capsule line for Target Walmart, what would the theme be? For me, I am like my thought is My theme would be like retro BotCon. Aside from just like the obvious of like well, Cybertron, because like we had a bunch of Cybertron toys that we never got repainted. Thundercrack or Starscream. Um but no, like I think the more viable one is just old school BotCon. Not only because keeping some exclusivity to old BotCon characters, I think is kind of a cool thing to do. So Target or Walmart exclusive it is, but also because there's so many viable ones. We've had new molds for so many characters that have not actually been done. You know, yesterday I did a third-party Fractal figure. They've not done a Fractal. They didn't do a Pack Rat out of the core Rat Trap, though that would be really hard to figure out how to release now. But you look at all the different characters, like look at all the, we have updated, like we have updated animated characters. So we have the Motor Master. So now like we just need to wait for other animated characters to get the rest of that team. And that would end up being viable. I'm trying to think off the top of my head because we've gotten so many updates to those molds that ended up being made into BotCon toys that now it's like you could just pick and choose, you know, and sometimes that gets around limitations, you know, like I still really want a modern Rapido. Well, you can't quite do Rapido because no one transforms quite like he does in the main cast. But the BotCon Rapido is a Prowl mold, so any Prowl would work to get him out. Little things like that would give you like little workarounds. But like I would stick to like classic old school BotCon, like the old school like we did Sandstorm already, so that one is out. But like if they do a Rampage, I would love a Shocker Act. You know, we've already got an Antagony. Like just build up that roster, for like the old school ones. Who is the most prideful in Transformers in your opinion? I mean, so there is like your old school level of pride, which would probably be your Beast Wars Dinobot or several Starscreams. But if you mean like Pride Month that we just finished, because this was literally done. This question was made yesterday, so I'm assuming it is that particular is the June style of Pride. I think Knockout kind of wears his sexuality and his persona and his openness in his connections and relationships. Like even in modern IDW, or not modern IDW, but like one of my big concerns with Skybound taking over was that IDW's approach to relationships with Transformers would be lost. But that doesn't seem to be the case because Knockout and Breakdown are depicted as a thing for the brief moment we see them. So I feel like it has to be Knockout. I feel like Knockout has to be like the Pride one. And again, even in personality, he does work for that. Why can't Starscream sue Megatron for workplace abuse? Well, when your boss makes up the laws of the Decepticon race, it's a little bit hard. It's just a little bit hard. Peace through tyranny and all that. You're interested in doing a series on your channel where you pit villains from other franchises against the Autobots and Decepticons. My suggestion for a first pick, Metal Sonic, because of the copyability of his. The question above was inspired by a prior video we did regarding how lacking there are in villains between Megatron and Unicron in threat level, though it could help with your video ideas. I mean, to use other people's villains? I will admit, there is a request in the queue that has been sitting there a long time because I don't know how to approach it. And it is, how do the Transformers deal with Ultron? I don't know Ultron very well. Like, is he like, I can take over other machines type villain? I want to say I've seen him do that, but I don't think of it as a regular power of his. So that one, I've always been stuck just because of lack of knowledge on the character. So I didn't want to put it out there. The hard part with this concept is basically in the same pattern of I genuinely don't know every single villain out there. To do this, it would absolutely have to be a villain that I absolutely know 100%. So, like, you have like Metal Sonic there. I really do think Metal Sonic is a lot more limited than Death Battle would have you believe. Otherwise, he could have done a lot of that stuff and wiped out Sonic decades ago. So I don't quite think so. Like, and I'm sure this is Death Battle inspired. I'm sure it is. Um, but no, this would require so much research, and it would have to be characters and villains that I really think would be interesting to see. It's viable, but I'd really have to put a lot of thought into who it would be. Should the GoBots, Zod, and Scales be integrated in Transformers universe as a result of Shockwave's experiments? I mean, how come Steamer wasn't made into a Constructicon? So, hang on. Well, now I had to do this. See, now I have to actually like look up what Zod and Scales are. Oh, they're the vehicles. Oh, they're the transforming vehicle monsters. Okay. Um, yeah, there's the risk of asking me questions like, so I was like, I know some GoBots. I don't know all my GoBots. But this kind of follows in vein of pretty much every problem with GoBots is that they are so screen accurate to how they're so accurate to how the toys look on screen that they can't do anything that directly uses them. Otherwise, you are in violation of Bandai of Japan. So that's that's why we don't see much of anything when it comes to we've only been in 15 minutes or so. I shouldn't be going to the flute already. But yeah, that's also why Steamer wasn't made into a Constructicon. They literally don't want to touch GoBots unless they absolutely have to, or they're absolutely legally safe to do it. And that's a very fine line to walk. If I ever bought just one Lyle Convoy in my life, which one would you recommend and get and why? Doesn't matter how old or expensive it is, just one of the best iteration of the character ever made. I mean, you could make an argument there for the masterpiece, but honestly, I don't know. I think right now your best bet. Sorry, I got a message and I'm waiting for something. This is embarrassing. Um, if you are looking for just like the best fit, yeah, I would say probably the T-Spark, like the retool that they did of the current Generations mold. That one, like the Generations mold, is actually pretty good, like all things considered. So Takara's retools of it to improve it makes it that much better. Like I would probably go with that one if I was just choosing one, because the masterpiece is a little bit much, and it does, like, I've seen breakage issues with it. And the original one's really, really cool, but I kind of want the more modern articulation that goes with it. So I would probably go for the T-Spark. You mentioned Blocky in your recent video about Transformers packaging. I'm surprised that you didn't go deeper. Blockies have fully homogenized their packaging. You know what? You get with Transformers, but because Blocky licensed everything from Sesame to Saint Seiya, they have it worse. I mean, I don't necessarily agree with that, because Blockies, like, you still have different styles to different types of packaging. You still have like unique graphics going on between different series. Hasbro is literally just like light mode, dark mode when it comes to its packaging. Everything else is in the exact same location. Logos all look alike. Name bars all look alike. Like, no, I think Blockies is at least way more interesting than what Hasbro's at right now. What's your thoughts on the Amazing Digital Circus series / finale? This goes into one of those, like, this goes into how far, like how far could I go with this topic? And the answer is, like, The reason I haven't done a video on the Digital Circus series and finale is because I don't want to make an hour-long video about one cartoon. I literally have that many thoughts. To say the least, I think the series is fantastic. I am incredibly impressed by how well it is written, considering it is one person doing all the writing, no backup writers, no one else handling the more minor episodes. It is all Gooseworks herself, and like she took on way more responsibility than she needed to or should have, which is why she got overwhelmed. Partially the toxic side of the fandom didn't help, but I thought the finale was amazing. Like, I'm not one to like get emotional watching media. My brain is usually pretty good at separating like reality and all this. So I love these characters, and I really feel for them, but like they don't like tug at my heartstrings much. The Digital Circus finale almost got me to cry twice, and then when I rewatched it, there is a scene that got me again. Like, it's been a long time since a show emotionally moved me or connected to me like that. So yeah, I want to talk it. I want to do a whole video for it. But man, I could go on for so long. How many members can a combiner team replace before they form a completely new combiner? Ultimately, I feel like once the majority are all from a different team or different teams, then you are dealing with something I would call a brand new combiner. Silverbolt and Air Raid by themselves do not make the aerial bots. But in general, for me, the biggest thing is also the core piece. So like if the center changes, brand new combiner. Like I can have 4 aerial bots, but if it's Defensor in the middle, I'm still calling it Defensor. Because that's the identity of the character. He's basically just wearing a different shirt and pants at that point. And so it varies. There's varying degrees here. Why are Zoids so expensive nowadays? It makes sense for the reboot Diaclone to be a collector's line because only hardcore fans remember it. I just don't see the case with Zoids. Zoids used to be big with kids my age. So your difference there is Zoids when you were Zoids back when they were just like a kid's brand in America were produced in far higher numbers and made far more simple than they are today. So oh, of course oh no, they're not. So check it out. T-Spark Genosaur. Now, I didn't pay full price for mine, so that's an important thing to remember. But you have to remember, so the Zoids that are made today like that are basically made to be on par with Bandai's master grade model kits for Gundam. And those do run very, very expensive because they are a ton of parts. So really, like, it comes down to just they've gotten a lot better as far as like engineering and construction than they were when when they used to be big. It's changed to be a different collector's market. That's basically what it is, and the product has changed along with it. Also, if you're thinking of like things that approach like Diaclone reboot prices, those usually tend to be like the really big Zoids that are like ridiculously expensive. Which Transformers should be turned into a 4-wheel drive if we ever get a Transformer 4-wheel drive collab? I will be honest, if 4WD means anything besides 4-wheel drive or is a specific brand, I don't know it to answer that question, so I apologize for that. I literally have no idea what that is. With Super Mini Plot revealing brand new power animals for Gal Ranger, what particular animal would you like to see get the Wild Zord treatment? Well, they've already done a turtle, so I can't really go with that. So they've already got my favorite animal in there. So to my knowledge, like it's supposed to be like it's 100, like it's 100 power animals, and to my knowledge, we only saw some of them in the show. The last episode showed off a lot of them very briefly, but to my knowledge, I want to say that most, or if not all, were designed out. You'd have to in order to make potential toys. So technically, I think all 100 were already accounted for a long time ago. But really, like the turtle that they've already shown off, that absolutely would have been my answer. Like, generally, can you give me a turtle? Yeah, I want a turtle. We have very few Transformer turtles, and it bothers me. It's been 2 years or so since I started watching your videos consistently, but I recently started again. Well, welcome back. Random thing, a comment here, but not gonna lie, you're... Oh, geez, what happened here? Whew. Power Core Combiner Plastic Addict video is one of my favorite videos on the internet. Thank you. Uh, what do you think of the 3 new Combiner team members from Combiner Wars, Rook, Off-Road, and Alpha Bravo? More specifically, the latter two, as I remember you said you liked Rook in this video. Both as toys, visual designs, and if you remember off the top of your head, they're characters from what little we got about them. So really, we didn't get any characterization from them. Their only appearance in animation would have been in Combiner Wars as a piece of those combiners, meaning they got no lines, they got no characterization whatsoever. They were just an arm or a leg at the time. I do really like the designs. I love the idea of adding the variety to the combiner teams, especially Stunticons and aerial bots. Aerial bots are kind of boring. I'm sorry to aerial bot fans, but they are. It's 4 jets that are relatively the same, and I know aeronautic fans out there go nuts when I say that. Look, there's plenty of other jet designs out there they could have gone with that would have given you a lot more variety, and you know what they are too. So the same ones over and over again, at least the same style of jet over and over again, yeah, they just gets dull. I like adding, I like adding that helicopter element to the aerial bots. I like adding an off-road truck to the Stunticons. And then, yeah, there is Rook, who is a very different vibe for the Protectobots, but a SWAT truck is kind of valid in that situation, too. He is my favorite design. I like a giant, like, heavy bulk robot, and I do like the character that the sculpt brings to him. I think he presents character better than Off-Road or Alpha Bravo. But no, I do like them as additions. They are good ideas. They are just supposed to be substitutes for other members, but they're still good ideas. In response to your failures of Energon video, do you feel the character concept of Alpha Quintesson deserves to be revisited at some point? Alpha Quintesson is a weird one to redo because their entire character is kind of based on them being the center point of a story, which generally we have other Quintessons for. It's hard to use Quintessons in like individual purposes. Like they are usually armies and groups. Alpha Quintesson is a unique situation. I wouldn't mind them attempting the concept again, but it is an incredibly kind of weird meta concept. You know, you got 3 faces that are the villain. You have a 4th face that is not villainous, and then you have the inner spirit of a girl who was basically what created Alpha Quintesson in the first place. It's a lot. It's a lot. There's a lot to that character. Wouldn't mind another shot, though, in a better written series. Do you think Power Rangers would have become the overnight success if Saban had adapted 5-man like he initially planned? I personally think no, simply due to lack of dinosaurs. And you would be correct. There's a few reasons, actually. Number 1, dinosaurs are always a surefire sale for American kids. So, yeah, dinosaurs were absolutely a thing, especially like late 80s, early 90s. There's a lot of dinosaur love at the time. You know, and this is before like Jurassic Park came around to make that even stronger. Actually, this is very bad of me. This is very bad of me. Okay, 1993. I can never remember exact season, like the exact year, 1993. Okay, yeah. So it was complete. It was probably complete happenstance that the two came out the same year. But yeah, it's Jurassic Park giving Power Rangers a rub. It's that huge dinosaur craze that was going on at the time. They just hit the right. It's lightning in a bottle. But the other factor to that is Jason David Frank. You know, like you only like 5-man. You've only got 5 people. Even in Jetman the year before, like you've got like there is technically a 6th in there. I think. I think there's like a brief one. I can't remember. It's late. It's late. But no, like Jason David Frank's charisma and just how cool the character came off as, that does a lot. That did a lot to make Power Rangers as successful as it did. But you are basically right. Like it was the dinosaur boom. See, as a YouTube creator, do you notice some change in viewership numbers when Hasbro does something controversial? I want to specify what I mean. When they miss something, people on the forum start talking about it, and you make a video on a totally different topic. Does the viewership change much from the usual? So do you mean like if Hasbro does something controversial, but I do a video that does not tackle that topic, does my viewership change? It's very hard to say, honestly. The viewership basically kind of fluctuates based on whatever the topic is and how well it resonates with an audience, especially how well it manages to capture a casual audience. If I talk about some deep niche character, you know, like really only, you know, hardcore Transformer fans understand what I'm talking about in the video. But if I say like, here's what the worst G1 Transformer toys really were, all you people going for low-hanging fruit pretenders, that one got a lot more views than I usually get. So yeah, like it's usually down to just like how the subject matter hits. I don't really notice any kind of bump from when Hasbro's doing something. The logic is there. I understand the logic of people are talking about Hasbro, so people are searching out people who talk about Hasbro. There's logic there, but I don't think it translates unless I actually do tackle said topics. But usually like hot button things like that, I tend to avoid. You know, it's not great for my viewership, but I'd rather post something a little bit more fun than something that's guaranteed to be inflammatory. Do you think that the shine spark from the Metroid games could work in the Prime games? It would be so probably not, because going that fast in first person perspective is going to be really disorientating and kind of rough. I understand why they don't do that. The scheduled conflicts fan would like to ask, with campaign 2 right around the corner, is there anything you can tease that Gob hasn't yet? Well, Gob's the DM, so he kind of determines exactly what it is going to be and how, like, and what you're actually going to experience. What I will say is that it is a very, like, what he wants to go with is a very different take on D&D than what we did before. We're still playing D&D 5th edition, but we are switching up exactly how the game works. So on a fundamental level, it's going to be a very different vibe from season 1. And I'm looking forward to it. We've seen many different Transformer insignias over the years. I wanted to ask if you had a favorite in terms of design, and if so, why? Mine is the G2 Autobot insignia. This thing looks cool and doesn't look like a grumpy old man like the G1. The grumpy old man that you are describing is Prowl. The G1 Autobot logo is designed after Prowl. Now, as far as like favorite insignias and faction symbols, that one's tricky to come up with. I've had so many people, so many years of people looking at my personal logo and asking like, why do you have like a red Maximal symbol as your logo? I'm like, it's not every logo with ears and fangs is a Maximal symbol, but I do like the look of the Maximal symbol. I I do. Okay, so I do think the original Viacon symbol is kind of clever in that it does look very mechanical and cold, but also gives this look of like a radiation warning. So I try to shift in the chair so my legs don't fall asleep. That one comes to mind too. That one comes to mind too. Is a cool one. I'm trying to think of like far out ones, like weird faction symbols we've gotten over the years. I like the Cybertron Elite ones too, when they actually get to add wings and things to it. I need to do like I've been meaning to do a whole video. This is like, here's every faction insignia in Transformers. But as it turns out, if you incorporate variations, it's like literally like over 100. What would happen if Rocket from the MCU Guardians of the Galaxy and Ratchet from Beast Wars met and became friends? How much damage and trouble could the two of them cause? Considering they're essentially the same character, that is, you're inviting chaos. But that said, I don't think they would actually be like causing trouble for anyone who didn't deserve it. Like those two in a like a Predacon base, they'd have the whole thing leveled to the ground by lunchtime. You kidding me? Oh, and they'd be loving it the whole way. Who is worse, Pat Lee or a comic book artist whose comic art was entirely AI generated? Pat Lee is a horrific human being, don't get me wrong. He's a swindler, he's a con artist, he is a thief. But still, he is very much like the AI artist in that they take personal credit and profit for other people's creations. So yeah, they're very similar in that realm. I will go ahead and I'll say, like, I don't think there's really anything worse right now than Gen AI. Genuinely, like, there is not a single thing that it is benefiting. It is just the illusion of easier and more cost effective, when the reality is it's cheap. It looks like it's cheap. It looks like crap. It isn't getting better at this point, and it's getting like known for just being low quality. It's still like, I can't I'm shocked at any like Gen AI artist who will take credit for something, knowing full well they just punched a sentence into a computer and made it do all the work itself, and all that work came from other artists that it had to steal from to do it, and still be proud of it. No, no, explode. Like, no, stop breathing my air. Stop. Go away. Good evening, or rather, good night, Mr. TJOmega. This time I'm going with an easy question, but ones that are appropriate, trying to beat the summaries. And that question is, Pepsi or Coke? Hmm. Dr. Pepper. No, it's usually Coke. I shouldn't be having them, uh, but here we are. I need a little bit of caffeine to get through these videos. I was raised on Coke, but it really depends. It really does depend, because I really like a Mountain Dew as well. The orange cream Coke was like a drug addiction for me for like the year that it was out. Um, but like, I don't know, like, I'm very much on the mood. Like, there's even a mood, like, I found out that like Pepsi Zero is like the most indistinguishable soda from regular that I've seen. And if I actually like, I really should be sticking to that, because at least I'd have like the no sugar aspect of it. But yeah, my generally like the go-to is a Coke. Which Maximal or Predacon from Japanese Beast era Transformers series do you like the most? So it has to be from the Japanese stuff. So there's a lot I really like. I really like Karada. I love the idea of a Cobra Transformer, because a Snake Transformer shouldn't be a thing or possible, and yet they did it. And they gave him this like design style and personality, like like an old west character. It's neat. It's a really neat design character overall. Other ones, Other ones, you'd be looking at things like Thrustor, the retool of Dinobot as a cyber beast. I'm trying to think of others before I go to like the obvious one. Stampy is a lot of fun. It's just like a cute little figure. The easiest answer is the one that we are now getting and talking about a lot, which is Beast Wars 2 Galvatron. Is my absolute favorite Beast Wars design. I love that toy. That was my first import toy. Love it, love it. The fact that we're getting one that's absolutely gigantic and won't have the gold plastic feet in dragon mode makes me so happy. If Starscream had stuck around in Beast Wars long enough to meet Rampage, how do you think they'd react to each other given Rampage's origin as an attempt to recreate Starscream's immortal spark? I feel like Starscream would try to get along and try to like ally with Rampage, almost based on like you're kind of my son type of thing. But mostly he would really just want Rampage around because it's a very powerful subordinate that would watch his back. Not that you're going to get Rampage's loyalty, but that's the angle Starscream would have worked. Would people be happier if instead of the NFL crossover, they used that mold and used actual Transformer emblems in other colors, such as the Autobot and Decepticon? So to do the NFL crossovers, you've basically committed to doing every single helmet of every single team. To do otherwise would be an enormous disservice to everyone who's buying them now. See, like, I haven't really checked the temperature on like what the fandom thinks of those toys. I got one because it was dirt cheap clearance, which is not good because it was wave 1 dirt cheap clearance, and now I'm seeing wave 2 around. They've got a lot of teams to go. This ain't looking good. I'm gonna be honest. It ain't looking good. I mean, I think the idea was correct. I think Transformer fans would have been happier to just do here's an Autobot one, here's a Decepticon one, and then call it a day. Just because, like, not only is that easier to collect for Transformer fans, but also, like, you know, you're still fitting, like, the theme while only getting 2 toys instead of over 20. But really, this isn't a bad idea. This really isn't a bad idea here because you want that crossover appeal with sports collectors because sports collectors will buy just about anything with their team on it. So, yeah, like, I do think that was a smarter idea. Like, the one I got is from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Of course, down here in Florida, that one's going to shelf warm and eventually go on sale for $12. Whereas I'm sure in Pittsburgh, you probably wouldn't have been able to find that thing on the shelves. I'll tell you what they should have done. They should have packed it in helmet mode. That would have appealed to the sports collectors a lot more. See, do you think we should see the studio series go into toy-based characters? My base for this question is the idea that Ray Alert gets a studio series toy because he's on the storyboards for the A6 movie. Because a lot of those toys are really cool designs that should have been in the movie instead of the generic gray Protoform number 9999. Pterodime and Mind Wipe are my 2 biggest wishlist Transformers, some of the kind of studio series line. Those designs are too cool to be forgotten to the sands of Egypt. Okay, so you're talking about so go into toy-based characters. So essentially what you're talking about is concept series, which so far we've only gotten 2 concept series, and one of them is the Bumblebee Megatron, and the other one is the KSI Widow. One of those toys coming out way better than the other one. I think that's where you put in the likes of like Pterodive and Mind Wipe or Breakaway. I think would be another one because Breakaway was almost in the movie. Those are the ones I would think of first. And yeah, like I wouldn't mind them doing studio series. Like keep in mind, there's people who grew up with these toys that weren't in the movie, but they were still the favorite toy they had. You know, maybe a kid got a bunch of 07 movie toys, but these were a little bit too complicated for them, you know? But, okay, like, You know, like here's thing I was one off the top of my head. Um, like here's Brawn. I think it was Brawn. Let's go with Hoist. I know there was a Hoist or Long Arm. Oh my god, I can't think. But yeah, let's take Long Arm, the tow truck, because that toy was all over the place too. That had to be some kid's favorite toy. Well, where's the modern one? Like, I think the kids who grew up with those toys deserve to have modern versions of them now that they can collect as adult collectors. You know, I think Hasbro leaves a lot on the table by ignoring those toy only designs. So yeah, I'd be down for that. Which Decepticon Autobot would you say is most likely to become the Blitz? Excuse me? Excuse me? I I genuinely have no idea what you're asking. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Sentimus, I see your questions every month, but like this one, I don't know. This one, I think you half baked this one. I'm not quite sure. Let's see. In your 50 random things you own video, you use Final Fantasy Spirits Within disc as a coaster. I was wondering how full the can was, how much weight you put on it, or whether or not it still works. So I figured I'd ask you this. Why wasn't Hotshot in that video? Because I think I made it very clear that I owned a Hotshot. So when it was 50 random things, I wanted to do genuinely random things, not just, the stuff you knew I owned. I wanted to be a little bit more different and interesting than that. Also, Final Fantasy Spirits Within, I guarantee that soda was full. I guarantee that can was full. I did not care. I think that disc I think the disc for that joke cost me like $3, and I hate that movie. That movie is so freaking boring. See, are there any transforming figures that you bought for one mode but ended up loving the alternate mode more once you had it in hand? The obvious ones there, the very obvious ones there are probably the collab figures. So like the DeLorean is in that category. The Ecto 1 is in that category. I feel like that's cheating though. Excuse I feel like that is cheating because those are designed to have better alt modes. If we want to talk like toys that are like, oh, the vehicle mode is so much cooler, and like I like playing with this, and I like having it like this more so than the robot mode. Let's see, I think Lunar Optimus Prime kind of falls in that category. Because like robot mode is cool, but it really is just like Optimus Prime with a white shirt on, right? So like the vehicle mode there is a lot cooler. If I'm trying to think of like who like I feel like I would not feel that way for anything that was like I feel like I wouldn't feel like that for anything that was based on a cartoon or a movie that I really liked. So like instantly most of these Transformers are out of the running. It had to have been somebody that was completely like fresh to a toy line. Um Someone who felt like generic in one mode but really interesting in the other mode. That's taken me way too much thought. I'm thinking on this way too hard now. Hmm. I think the other answer to that are more boring ones. Like I got Beast Wars Neo Dead End, who I hate the robot mode of with those giant shells, but the beast mode, the Ammonite mode, that's interesting. That's different. Hmm. Ah, so it's stuck on the back of my throat. We're good. We're good. See, here's my question. With next year's Age of Evolution likely having a large focus on Decepticon villain characters, what are some you think you should get figures of down the line? Their necessary ones, in my opinion, are RID 2015 Steeljaw, G1 Octane, Animated Megatron. Octane is overdue at this point, right? Like, we've basically covered the gambit of triple changers outside of Broadside, who has way too many issues to release, at least as of right now. And then we haven't done Octane, who I think is really just because of the complexity of getting the jet and the truck mode to work together. But yeah, like G1 Octane comes to mind. I don't mind your other shouts either, especially Steeljaw. Steeljaw for being like a main villain in a cartoon for a while. Man, like no good toy. The man needs a good toy. But as far as other Decepticons that I would love for them to do, as long as we're doing like primarily Decepticons, the easy answers on my like simple ones like Cybertron Skywarp. It's an opportunity to release that repaint. I'm trying to think of like who's been sitting on the sidelines that deserves a good shout. Oh, we mentioned them already. The Viacons. You know, if we're doing like a heavy lean on Decepticon or villain characters, please give me the Viacons at this point. Like, they need something. Everyone, like, a lot of people want them at this rate. Let's see. Do you feel like for a sixth member of the Stunticons, Crasher could be a good fit, as a faction could be a good home for her? Perhaps sharing a mold or partner mold with Dragstrip, maybe. So you wouldn't want to share mold with Dragstrip because their robot modes are distinctly different from each other. So you'd want to keep that separate and respected. But really, like, their vehicle modes are also very different from each other. You know, like he's kind of like a prototype 6-wheeled IndyCar, whereas like Crasher is a dome racer. At least traditionally, she would be a dome racer. I feel like in this scenario, if we're going to put her in with the Stunticons, you wouldn't just make her a Formula One car. You would have to try to get away with doing her as a dome racer of some kind, just for the sake of variety. Let's see. Yeah, the irony here is we already talked about him. This would technically be the 8th Stunticon after both Off-Road and Blackjack. But yeah, personality wise, you're spot on. Like, Crasher is absolutely made to be a Stunticon if she had a space in there. I know why they focus mainly on MP scale figures, but why do you think more third-party companies don't make Chug scale figures? A lot of complaints I see about third parties stem from the price. I feel like smaller generation scaled bots could sell for lower prices and be more popular in the fandom if they were characters that Hasbro won't do. DJD, Sunder, more obscure G1 dudes. So there's a few reasons behind that. Number one is that at smaller Chug scales, they can't get away with the level of engineering that they're used to working with when it comes to the masterpiece scale. They're dealing with a tighter, even though it's third party and they can have all the budget they want, they're dealing with a much tighter size scale that can't fit in quite as many bells and whistles. So they have to simplify it down and figure out some kind of mid-ground happy point between getting this to be a compelling figure to transform, but also simple enough and small enough to fit in with a generation's lineup. But the other thing is that we really don't know what Hasbro hasn't or like will not do at this point. You know, so like we have seen like we've seen what happens when like Hasbro or Takara releases a toy right in front of a third party figure. So like, was it Quake Wave? Like, there was a Shockwave, there's a third party Shockwave toy that was announced. And then like literally within the same week, before or after its announcement, Masterpiece Shockwave was announced. And it just completely killed that figure. Like, so you wouldn't want to risk that by going like, okay, we're developing the DJD to go and scale with your Tarn. Well, We don't know Hasbro these days, you know? Like, we have a Kranix figure. We have an Emirate Zarak figure. Like, we have, like, Emirate Zeron. Let's correct that. But really, I don't think there's a depth of obscurity that Hasbro isn't willing to try at this point. So it's too risky to do generation scale. You know, for as much as they have to try to figure out how to make that happen, the only ones that would be safe are what you said of like more obscure G1 dudes. The problem with that is at some point you reach a level of obscurity that even hardcore fans aren't going to care about. You know, okay, Sunder's cool. Are there really enough Sunder fans out there to buy him as a Generations Leader scale toy? That's kind of hard to answer. Like, third party doesn't like taking risks any more than Hasbro. They tried taking risks in the past and paid very dearly for it. So they basically stay in their lane now. Is there a Transformers collaboration you'd like to see done as a Decepticon or Predacon? Most seem to be Autobots, except for one or two dinosaurs from Jurassic Park. You are right in that collabs are very, very thin, but that's because the cool vehicles tend to be the good guys. You know, it's kind of hard for me to come up with like, oh, that was a really cool vehicle. That's a really cool, like, that's a really cool thing. Oh, it's a, okay, yeah, it's for the hero, isn't it? Oh, okay. Villains usually don't get cool vehicles. That's the trick. I'm like trying to think of it now. Like, I'm legitimately like, I'm struggling to think of like some kind of property where it would make sense for the vehicle, or whatever, like even beasts. Yeah, like I'm drawing a blank here. I'm sure if I gave it enough thought, I would be able to come up with something. Basically, Primal Links, what you've done is that you are now forcing me to open my notepad, and I'm just going to go to, yeah, I'm just gonna go to this little page I have for like future video ideas, and it's just going to be collabs that aren't Autobots. Because that's something I'm gonna have to think about and explore, because that's actually a really salient point. Collabs are almost always Autobot. How would season 3 of Transformers Prime change if Optimus did pass the Matrix to Smokescreen? They would lose. Like, straight up, they would lose. They would have lost that day. Are you kidding me? Like, it was only Optimus Prime's upgrade from the Forge of Solus that did anything to actually tip the scales in that fight. Darkmount would still be on Earth. Megatron would still be in charge. You wouldn't have seen the Predacons because they wouldn't have needed them. Yeah, it would not have ended well. It would not have ended well. In every TF movie that Megatron appears, including Predacon Rising, he has a master who's working on for someone besides Transformers 2007 and Age of Extinction. Well, he wasn't in. Well, here's the thing. Even in Age of Extinction, Galvatron was subservient. Like, he was being controlled by Cemetery Wind. So you're wrong there. Like, his master was Kelsey Grammer, which is not a position anyone wants to be in. But you are correct. Megatron is always subservient. Even in 2007, we kind of figured out that he was subservient to the Fallen at the time. It is something that I have noticed myself. I've got a video that's been boiling in my brain for like 2 years now that I need to get around to that's going to bring it up. If Cybertron Soundwave was to get a new toy, should he be Voyager or a Leader? And would he be a retool or a new mold? So, logically, he should be a Voyager because that is not a major character, and he's really not that tall or big in the original show. But I feel like because of Laserbeak, they would work him into being a Leader class toy. As far as being a retool or a new mold, he has to be a new mold. There isn't a mold out there that's anywhere close to similar to him, especially because he's a Soundwave. you would need to have the chest door gimmick. So even if there was like some kind of like space jet or stealth bomber that would work form wise for him, the amount of retooling it would take to turn him into a functioning Soundwave, might as well just make a new one. Hmm. Who would win in an epic no holds barred fight to the finish battle for Thunder? Let's see. Thundercracker, Thunderwing, Thunderclash, Thundertron, or Thunder Mayhem. So if it's all going at the same time and any of these guys had a brain, Thunderclash alone would make sure that these all started working together, because Thunder Mayhem has to go down first. You have to take Thunder Mayhem out of the equation or no one else has a shot of winning. If they are smart enough to do that, then Thunderclash is going to win. He's just the most powerful and most experienced one there. Thunderwing being a close second, but we've seen him be more defeatable, I think. If they cannot figure that out, then Thunder Mayhem's got it. He's a big combiner boy. He's just too powerful. Hang on. I actually want to see how dumb this is. I have to give the edge to the one with the most raw power and cosmic history backing him up. None of them have cosmic history. God, I hate AI. Which fictional food or drink would you like to actually try? I want to try, Roctagino. Okay, it's been a long time since I had to read that word. So from Deep Space Nine, Klingon coffee has got to be wicked strong. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I haven't really thought about that, like a fictional food that I would want to actually eat. Like, I feel like, God, I feel like it'd be boring answers. I feel like my answers would be boring. Let's see, but like, it'd be boring. It'd be boring. It would be very, very boring answers. Like it would be like Buzz Cola from The Simpsons, or it would be what else? So I can't even think of it. Or like the blue milk. I like what does the blue milk actually taste like from Star Wars? You can get it at Galaxy's Edge, but it ain't milk. It ain't milk. If anything, it's closer to a slushy. So I think it would be that. Have you noticed that TF Prime Megatron has a right arm and of a Prime, and Skybound Optimus has Megatron's right arm? I do wonder if that inspired them to give Optimus Megatron's right arm. Braxton, probably not. It probably just comes down to people are typically right-handed, and their dominant hand is the one that their combat focuses around. So that's the arm they went with for both Megatron and Optimus in those situations. It really does come down to simple things like that. The right arm just kind of leads the way in the fight, so that's the one that gets replaced by the new arm. Let's see. What two characters, one Autobot and one Decepticon, do you feel would make good friends if it wasn't for the war? That's a good one. Oh boy. If there was no combat, no nothing, but like, I can't take them too far out of their characterization, I feel like Wheeljack and Starscream would technically get along as fellow scientists and creators, but I can't take Starscream's ego out of the equation. Even if there is no war, like, his personality remains. So I can't really go with that. Oh man, that gets difficult. Like, uh Dead End and Huffer just being like the edge boys, just like two just super depressing people who hang out together because it makes them feel justified. That would be funny. That would actually be funny. Man, who else would mesh well? I'm trying to buzz through characters in my brain as fast as I can here. No, I think that would be the I think that would be the right one. I think that'd be the right one. Yeah, like they carry such similar personalities. See, thank you to your service from a lifelong fan from G1. Your streak is most impressive. Thank you. I'm losing my mind very slowly. Do you feel that so many simultaneous Transformer lines in the aisles dilutes the overall brand? I've talked about this before, and yes. When was this asked? 3 weeks ago. I don't. Did you ask this before I did a video that said, Transformers has a, is it time to retire studio series? Transformers has a perception problem, where basically I just kind of agree with the sentiment of there's just too much. I did a video this like pointing this out specifically, that we just have way too many different lines going on at one time. And not only do I think it dilutes the brand, I think it divides the attention of the engineers way too much. There's only so many engineers that work on Transformers. So to ask them to come up with all of these different figures and designs, it's just too much. It's way, way too much. You got to think about that. You got to think about, like, with so many different products going on, they're having to like rush out these designs and engineering a lot faster. I feel like we're not getting the magic out of these Transformers that we used to as a result. Yeah, I think a lot of issues with Transformers these days just comes down to there's just too much to buy. Too much low quality crap, too much stuff that looks alike, not enough stuff that has, you know, a life of its own. So yeah, like we are in full agreement. I don't think we need to necessarily go down to one single toy line. That might be a little bit too much. But like, I could do just going back to the 2000s approach of like, here's two primary lines, one for the cartoon, one for just stuff we want to make, and then maybe like one alternator style collector's line. Done. Done. Leave it at that. Like here's a little kid's line, here's a bigger kid's line, here's an adult line. Done. With Thunderwing being the next Commander class release, according to rumor, are we still going to get the Protectobots, Technobots, etc.? Pausing combiners for a year seems like a bad idea, and what could happen to the economy, Hasbro's budget and price points by then. And if we don't get any more Scramble City style combiners, that's of course going to suck. So you are correct. I've had the same concern. However, I do feel like the combiners that we still have to do may not necessarily fall into that same category, because what we have left now is the Protectobots, who would be the next logical choice. So, those do not have quite the same issue. I'm not sure you would necessarily need as much of a framework for them, both because there's so much size potentially to hotspot, but also the legs on those would have to work similar to the Combaticons, where like you would be asking a lot of the bots to form the legs. The difficulty being Groove is a leg on Defensor, so you'd have to figure out how Groove is going to work. I feel like they're not going to actually go without doing all of the main in-series combiners with and leave anyone out. I do think at some point we're going to get the Protectobots, we're going to get the Terracons, we're going to get the Technobots. I don't necessarily fear what's going to happen like with like economy wise when it comes to them. Are they going to be more expensive when they come out? Absolutely. But I do think they're going to stick with that style for as long as it is possible, for as long as it is viable to do so. But yeah, and I think they're just going to increase the price of individual stuff until it actually like gets everything out. So I think we will get them all. I do think we will get at least those 6. Like, I don't think they would put a pause on combiners for a year if they didn't have a plan. Everyone knows a broadside is essentially impossible to do with his current alt modes. If you could change them, what would they be? My thought is keep the aircraft carrier mode instead of a jet, make him an aerial drop ship. That way, scale doesn't need to be an issue. So it's not so much vehicle scale. Like, okay, yeah, an aircraft carrier that turns into like a single jet. That is really weird. So essentially, like, if you want to deal with scale, I think you take the Five Faces of Darkness approach with that vehicle mode and you just upscale it as high as you can. So instead of just being like a modern like a jet of some kind, instead you would make it this big space carrier kind of ship that has a similar look to the original G1 vehicle mode, but looks a little bit more interesting. And because you give it more of a fantasy design, because you give it more of a spaceship design that's supposed to be like something that could carry a ton of Autobots, the scale no longer becomes an issue, and you can play with the design enough to mesh better transformation engineering wise with the aircraft carrier mode. So you solve two birds with one stone there. The biggest issue with getting Broadside out is he's depicted in two drastically different sizes. The original toy line says he's the same size as the other triple changers. The cartoon says he's Skyfire size. So it leaves him in a tough position because Broadside is next to nothing as a character. You're not going to get a commander class Broadside. Like, the character just isn't big enough to carry a $100 price point. It's not important enough. Not enough people care about Broadside to do a $100 figure that he would have to be at minimum. You know, and that's if they decide, oh, well, we should actually take him up to Titan. Yeah, it's the size of the toy that becomes the biggest problem. But yeah, like, make the jet mode more like a giant space cruiser, kind of. That would be my solution. Suppose Hasbro tried to get more use out of a mold without a lot of repaint options by running a fan contest where fans could come up with new backstories and color schemes for an existing mold. Which mold would you pick to base such a contest around? That is very difficult. Came back here to edit my question, but I don't see it here, so I'm putting this here as a separate post. If my other post actually is still here, I'm sorry for double dipping. Okay, so we're gonna remember this A. We're gonna remember this orange A and a name made of numbers. We're going to ignore the next one that comes up. So for me, I think the weird thing here is I think the most fun you could have is with a mold that is already repainted a ton. So, like, show me how to make a new Seeker. You know, throw that 86 Thundercracker mold up there, and here, you figure out how to make an original looking Seeker that hasn't been done before. That seems like a funny one, but you don't need to get more uses out of that mold. So it would have to be something weird, you know? It would have to be something that, like, they had no other option for. So one of the things that we talk about here is, where are the Omnibots? The G1 Omnibots still do not have modern toys, and it comes down to Camshaft, because Camshaft's robot mode is exceptionally unique. His transformation makes him unique from pretty much any other Transformer, meaning there's no repaint options. Something like this that you're talking about does make that a little bit more viable. Now, whether or not it comes up with something that, you know, fans will resonate with and will actually buy when it becomes a retail toy, who knows? But that does make something like that a little bit more interesting and viable. Question was inspired by discovering that the Beast Wars character Arcadus was a result of a fan con. Really? Because I really like that toy too. Have you seen, what are your thoughts on the Blockies Defender class, like Metal Cardbot Stardust figures that Sempa put out? Blockies Defender class? Like the little ones? Like the tiny ones? Like, well, let's see. Here's Beast Wars 2 Galvatron. Here's Magmatron. Here's Dark Amber Lio. Here's Nemesis Prime that I didn't pull, so I had to buy on eBay. Here's the reformat Galvatron. Yeah, they're cute, little inoffensive, inexpensive little things. I like them. I like them. They're great for just having like desktop size toys. Oh, I got one more in reach. Of course it's a Blitzwing. Of course I've got the Blitzwing. I have him next to the world's smallest Optimus Prime, and he's just like almost exactly the same height. It's kind of cute. What do you prefer at the moment? Pixar, DreamWorks, Illumination, or some other animation studio? So right now, like, I'm as tired of Minions as everybody else, but I will admit Illumination really has me right now on like the quality of the Mario movies. I'm like, give them any video game property right now, and I'm down. I'm absolutely down. Let them do Donkey Kong next. Let them do Star Fox next. Give me the Nintendo Cinematic Universe and make it all Illumination. DreamWorks, honestly, I don't really pay attention to. Pixar, I think, is in that same creative rut that all of Disney is fighting right now. I understand Toy Story 5 was, again, a good movie, but seriously, 5 times with the Toy Story? Really? Like, we're so... The House of Imagination is so lacking that we're going to a series that's already had 4 iterations and doing a 5th. Little much. Let's see. If you can have your own suit of armor, be it medieval or high tech, with an animal motif of your choosing, would it be turtle, ankylosaurus, or mantis themed, or all of those if possible? Can I do a Kamen Rider thing and switch between them? Because I feel like you have a great thing here of like turtle being defensive, ankylosaurus being heavy attack, and mantis being quick attack. Like, you do have like defense, power, and speed as those 3 forms. I mean, if I'm going to have to choose, like, especially if it's like high-tech armor, it's probably going to be the Ankylo, because it's a good offense and defense capability. It'd be slow, but it's a good balance. Successfully finished my 4 months of military service by the time you read this. Well, thank you. Thank you for your service. Thank you very much. Thank you for your support and amazing content throughout this time period. It really helps make the entire journey a bit less tiring and stressful. I am absolutely thrilled to help. Thank you very much for saying that. I'm emotional now. Hang on. Oh, I'm emotional and verklempt. This may have been asked before, but how many Q&As are there? It's very hard to remember. Understandable. I have literally answered thousands of questions at this point, which blows my mind. Now that you've got a G1 type Ankylosaurus, personal favorite of mine too, is there any dinosaur off the top of your head that you would make for an interesting Dinobot? Have a fondness for the Pachycephalosaurus, aka the headbutt dino. I think it'd be a cool equally interesting robot. I really want a G1 Scorn. So I do think now, like, a modern take on the Spinosaurus that's closer to a belly crawler, that would be more interesting for a Dinobot, because it provides a little bit of difference for the team itself. See, as far as other dinos I could think of off the top of my head, Quetzalcoatlus would be wild. I mean, it gives Swoop someone to fly with, but they'd be far more aggressive than Swoop is. That's technically not a dinosaur. I would get in so much trouble with Red Claw if I didn't point out that the flyers weren't dinosaurs. Is there anyone else I could think of off the top of my head? Because like Apache is a pretty good shout as well. I think you nailed it. I think when as I was reading it, Scorn came to mind. Scorn came to mind as I was reading it. That one I would not mind. It's hard to think of dinosaurs that don't fit into the archetypes that we've already that we've already covered, you know? Like we've got Slash, we've got a Raptor, you know? So like smaller little like pack dinosaurs like that, we got covered. Triceratopians, we've got covered. You know, your big theropods, we got those covered. Obviously, like T-Rex alone eliminates anything like Allosaurus or Carnotaurus, like anything like that. Um, yeah, yeah, you're hard pressed to find anything else. I think, like the options start getting pretty thin. But no, I think you nailed it. I think you nailed it. My thought was a Spinosaurus. I mean, we can start throwing in like mosasaurs and we start getting aquatic with it too. I know everyone would want paddles. Who is the best and worst Star Trek captain? My picks for best: Sisko from DS9. Worst with Janeway from Voyager. Nothing against Kate Mulgrew. Janeway was a terrible character who was stranded her crew in the Delta Quadrant when she didn't need to. So she did need to because there's a greater good circumstance here because she was protecting her home by closing off their way to get there because that would have let in way too many opposing forces. Like you are leaving an open threat available. And really that's down to just writers saying like we have to get them stuck in the Delta Quadrant. Keep in mind, I can't say Janeway is a bad captain because I can't say that Janeway is a bad captain because she did get her crew home. Ultimately, she got her ship home, which you can't be a bad captain and accomplish that. And to think of all the things and knowledge and everything they brought back from the Delta Quadrant, invaluable, absolutely invaluable. Sisko, I think, is a really cool character to watch. I would not call him the best captain because there is more to Starfleet captain than just how good you do in a fight. You know, that's the action movie mentality that they went with for like the Star Trek movies, and it's not correct. No, your best captain is Picard because he could negotiate. He was a talker, he was an intellectual. He didn't need to resort to combat most of the time in order to solve situations. Remember, the Federation is ultimately supposed to be a peaceful organization that's trying to unite the universe. You know, you don't judge it solely by ability in combat, which Picard could hold himself in a fight. You know, let's not forget that too. So yeah, Picard would be my number one, and Archer would be my worst. Mostly because one, Archer had no idea what he's doing, and two, I I just think he was boring. I just thought he was boring. If Hasbro gave us a Death Source retool from Studio Series A6 Grimlock as originally planned, what figure do you think would be ideal candidate for a Star Saber retool? I don't think you have an ideal candidate for a Star Saber retool. Yeah, like there really isn't any like big big space jet transform. They would probably have tried and failed to retool Siege Jetfire potentially, or maybe like Generations Jetfire, so it would scale better to Death Source, but it would not have turned out good. It would not have turned out good. If tasked to repaint the G1 combiners with unified color schemes, what colors would you give Superion and the Aerial Bots? They're already unified. They're like one of the most unified teams. Most everyone on that team is white, red, and gold. Superion is a really good silhouette of white, red, and gold. There is some black, there is some gray. But ultimately, white, red, and gold is, and a little bit of black too, is like that's your color scheme for the aerial bots. You know, I might I might switch a black jet for like a gold jet or something, but that's about it. But no, I thought Superion's actually pretty unified compared to some of the others. I don't know if video suggests are allowed. I'm not asking for a story on the spot, but what kind of G1 cast woke up? What if the G1 cast woke up during the Beast Wars? So, yeah, this wouldn't be a video. Like, to do a video request, that's what my Patreon is for. But for this, to give you like the quickest, dirtiest answer, basically the same thing that happened in 1984, except they don't have vehicle modes. So then, like, that's the issue, is that in order to be revived during in 1984, they needed things to transform into before Teletran 1 would repair them. Like that, like scanning alt modes came before repairing the robots. So in that case, they wouldn't have anything to transform into. They could scan like local beasts, but in that canon, we have no idea if they were capable of that. Yeah, like the only way that works is if they just kind of woke up and still had all their Cybertronian forms intact. In which case, yeah, they just would have continued the fight on Earth, and basically Maximals and Predacons would either just become like a footnote because they're just small and insignificant compared to everything else, or potentially just like, well, we'll just side up and just keep fighting, because really it would be down to Autobots and Decepticons. Like the Maximals and Predacons are so small and lower power, you really wouldn't see them like play much of a part in things. Do you prefer combiner designs that are more streamlined to look like they're unique, or more imperfect with bits of individual members poking through the overall design? Ultimately, for me, I do like having a more concise combiner. Like, I don't mind bits sticking out, but the bits have to make sense, you know? So Devastator works because you see like all those construction vehicles that he's a part of. He doesn't transform to the extent of hiding what he is. So having little bits hanging out of him, that works. Whereas things like Piranacon or like the Terracons, where like they just don't have anything to do with their legs because G1 toy limitations, that is to its detriment. I think that makes the combiner look a lot messier. So, I do prefer more uniform. I prefer smoother. I prefer a little bit more like symmetrical. Videos have been part of my daily routine because I love seeing fellow fans nerd out. Keeping you, TJ. Thank you very much. Do appreciate all the viewing. Which format would you rather want a Godzilla vs. Transformers story? A movie or a comic book? A direct-to-video animation like DC used to do. We can get that as a comic book anytime, but like I do want some kind of spectacle, but I don't think as a movie it would work. But I feel like if they were, I feel like why did I almost say Nintendo? Oh, because it's almost 3 a.m. I'm tired. And I'm tired, and my voice really wants to give up here. But you know, we're an hour and a half in. I know I got a long way to go. But no, I think Transformers in general is missing a really good trick by not doing like a direct to video animations the way that we used to get with DC, because those were really good, you know, like, some of them were really good. You know, and there's some that's not even that old. Batman versus Ninja Turtles is not that old. So like it's still viable marketing wise. It's just Hasbro would have to pony up to actually get it made. And that's the trick. But I think spectacle things like that would work best. So like, here's like an hour and 20 minutes of animation for this story, and you know, and we're here. Just have fun. Just go watch it on Netflix or something. That's where I feel like that kind of story fits. What's your take on the IDW story, The Last Autobot? It's very divisive. Love to hear your take on it. Uh, release Earthspark Cosmos. Absolutely release Earthspark Cosmos. Let me double check really quick because I want to remember. I want to make sure I'm thinking of the right story here. Because The Last Autobot has a few. There's a few that this could be about. Hang on. Okay, honestly, I'm not sure I've read this. I'll be honest with you. If you're talking about the one that's about Sentinel Prime, I'll be honest with you. I don't think I've actually read it, or it's been so long since I've read it. I have no recollection of it whatsoever. So, like, unfortunately, I don't have an answer on that one. Unfortunately, like I do not remember every comic. I haven't read every single comic, so that is a little bit of a feeling. Oh, Tiffin boy, you almost got banned. Don't even joke. Don't even joke. Oh my god, I almost threw the mouse at the monitor. See, I think you think a modern take on the Combiner Wars concept could be successful, like the idea of Scramble City with non-Gestalt characters. Okay, I will admit, time being a sliding scale is unfortunate, but really, like, I don't view Combiner Wars as that old of a toy line yet. Like I would still call it a modern toy line because like I think modern toy line, um, I think modern toy line is like anything like after like the last night. I can't even remember if that counts in my own scorecard. I don't care. Um, but no, I mean, of course it would work, but like, I don't think there's a modern take you could do. I think Combiner Wars pretty much nailed it. Keep in mind, in order to do what they do, the Combiner War toys have to do a lot the same from each other. They have to all be the same size and length in arm mode and in leg mode, or else the toys get imbalanced. They have to have their elbows in the same spot in arm mode because they need to be symmetrical for articulation. That limits them entirely, and that's on top of the Scramble City part. So while it's a fun way of having multiple bots, there's a lot to incorporate. They would probably be expensive to do today because of all the extra engineering requirements for scramble function. They would have to come up with a brand new cheap way of doing it. And I don't think you'd ever see it again simply because the framework not only makes the engineering a lot easier, but it makes the overall toy quality a lot better individually. Um, I think where this would succeed is if they imported something like Wild King, where that engineering style is still very, very fun, and it is possible to do in a cheaper format. Takara proved that. So yeah, I guess it does still work in a way. Hello, Josiah. Let's see. Which of these characters, based on their Cyberverse incarnation, would you like to see in a Transformer show again between Hot Rod, Grimlock, Windblade, Soundwave, Skybite, and Slipstream, and Happy July? If we're basing it on Cyberverse, the one really that strikes me as the most different out of those that I enjoyed the most is Soundwave. It's a Soundwave that strikes like the original in just presentation and overall personality, but there's more depth to the character. You can see where there's a little bit of jovialness to them. You can see where they are more willing to work for a greater good, even if that means working alongside the Autobots. He has this bromance with Hot Rod that I would never have seen coming, but oh my god, it's so fun to watch. I really like Cyberburst Soundwave. Probably my favorite character from that particular series. Yeah, I would love to see him again. I would love to see that personality take on Soundwave again. It's way more interesting than just vocoder voice and blind loyalty. Is there an Optimus Prime you really want to see get a modern update outside the norm? For example, with a new Devastation Bumblebee, I would love a new Classics Optimus Prime with all the best features and tricks of today. And I've always been a fan of G2 Hero Optimus and Ginrai. Needing those two right now. I don't. I mean, I think. I think really. You're inevitably going to see a Power Master Optimus Prime. So there's your Ginrai. And then Classics Optimus. I do really like the look of Classics Optimus. I would not mind that again. Let's see, I'm trying to think now. I'm trying to think now. What would be good for because I feel like I say Cybertron Optimus Prime way too often, don't I? That's so my go-to. I'm trying to think of like an out there. I mean, my most out there is probably Reverse Convoy, but that's technically a Megatron in disguise. I don't think that counts. I think that one is also unfair to do. I'm trying to think, like, this would have been easier 10 years ago when my shelves included every Optimus Prime on the same shelf. Because now it's just like, well, now I'm trying to remember off the top of my head which other ones there are. I'm trying to remember if there's anything like particularly odd. Yeah. Yeah, like, okay, my brain's blanking. I hate that my brain is blanking. I'll tell you, like, one that I really wouldn't mind seeing would probably be Beast Hunter's Optimus, because I think going for raw size on that original toy did make it feel like way too simplistic and way less interesting than it could have been. I like this big hulking Optimus Prime. That was cool, but the toy was like incredibly simplistic compared to the bar that Prime had set. I wouldn't mind them going after that one again. Oh, I know. Um, RID 2015. I weirdly like that design a lot, but you either have the small toy, which leaves a lot to be desired, or you have the big toy imported from Japan. I would love to see a middle ground. I would love to see a middle ground with modern engineering. Let's see. If given the chance, which voice actors would you choose for a hypothetical proper English dub of Metal Card Bot? Um, Unfortunately, I'm not up on my modern voice actors to really determine that. I feel like if I was going to come up with a cast, I'd mostly just give my favorite voice actors a job. The other problem is I have not watched any Metal Card Bot cartoon, meaning I have no frame of reference as to who would work with who, even if I had that in my head. You know, I can't I can't tell you like who Scott McNeil would fit as a character for, because I haven't seen the characters. So yeah, unfortunately I have not nearly enough knowledge on either side to answer that. You mentioned a Q&A video having all the Autobots and Decepticon leaders coexisting together. How would you structure the chain of command for each, top to bottom? You'd still keep Optimus and Megatron as like supreme commanders of their forces. You would basically have everyone else as like sub commanders. You know, like if you have like one admiral and several generals underneath, that kind of thing. Or like Optimus Prime is like a commander in chief, and then everyone else is a general who is in charge of a large portion on their own, but will ultimately defer to Optimus Prime. So it's not so much like a chain of command of like, well, I would put Star Saber ahead of Rodimus Prime, which I would, but that's more on the Autobot side of things, so it's much more clean cut military. I feel like on the Decepticon side of things, you'd have to give it some like variation to personality. Decepticons are much more like survival of the fittest, you know, like like strength through uh strength, like leadership through strength type. Um Man, I'm putting way too much thought into this. I'm putting way too much thought into this. Um I think I think how it boils down is the Autobot side is a commander in chief with a bunch of generals. And each general has a section of either the universe that they are in charge of or particular groups of the Autobot army. And then on the Decepticon side, you have only Megatron. Megatron is the only one who leads. And then he still views anyone else, like Galvatron, Deathsaurus, any of them, as his subordinates, just given different tasks at the time. And every single one wanting to dethrone him. What do you think of Dawn of the Predacus? I feel like it was. Well, I feel like it was a rushed concept because it was at the last minute. Hasbro, like, basically at the last chance they were given to change things. Hasbro informs FunPub, we want you to use contemporary molds. Well, they had already been setting up Beast Wars Uprising as their main story. They wanted to do that, but they got changed at the last minute to, well, you have to use Combiner War molds. Great. So unfortunately, yeah, it felt rushed. I thought the toys were really not good at all. I really did not like their interpretation of the Tripredacus Council. It's still so stupid to make all of their toys red because that scene had them in red lighting. And the cast and crew admit it was the only reason they're red was because of the lighting. And the only reason for red lighting was so they contrasted really well because the models for them were completely unfinished. So like, yeah, I just thought it was a really sloppy set, and I thought it was really rushed concept. Do you have any hopes for Kamen Rider Mice? Supposedly it's based off of the Chinese zodiac, so we're in for like a lot of riders here. We're in for like 12 riders in this series. I could think of a few animals in that zodiac. I could want some, like, there could be some really, really cool riders for. Some that we haven't gotten for a lot, like a tiger based rider, a potentially let me check the Chinese zodiac really quick. This was a really good thought in my head, and then nothing. So you got to remember, like, the whole like Chinese zodiac thing is that like the rat was the whole thing is based off of like a race between all the animals, and the rat was just really clever about how it got to the front, thus it became the first one in line. So that's why we're getting a rat, and the idea is that you start as the smallest animal and work your way up. But there's a dragon, like us. We haven't had a snake Kamen Rider in a hot minute. That would be cool. Don't remember a goat rider. Don't remember a monkey rider or a pig rider or a dog or a rooster. Stealing my shtick now. I'm the only Kamen Rider that turns into a barnyard fowl. Thank you very much. And go watch Ancient Magnetar on YouTube, by the way, or on Twitch. Oh, on YouTube as well. I post my archives. Favorite voice of Soundwave: traditional vocoder, no voice at all, or Cybertron radio announcer? Traditional vocoder with personality, not just the G1 monotone, but like as stated before with like Cyberverse, personality behind the vocoder. Do you think, corporate reluctance to probably do so aside, it would be even possible for a future piece of Transformers media to do horror successfully? Considering one of the most popular horror franchises for the better part of a decade was about a pizzeria and the animatronics in it, yes, I do think it is possible to do horror with Transformers. It would just take very particular story and very particular framing. But no, it could be done. We've seen little glimpses of horror being done in Transformers. Transformers Prime has a great episode for that. It's absolutely doable. Is there anywhere in G1 that shows a comparison in size between a Titan and a Combiner? So, only in few instances, and keep in mind, in G1, the artists were basically just like they were basically winging it. And keep in mind, in G1, not all Titans are built the same. So you can see Devastator and Omega Supreme on screen at the same time, but Omega Supreme is notably much smaller than the Titans we would get later, like Metroplex. So there's things like that to take into account. If you want to see actual size comparisons, scale charts do exist. You can Google for them. But canonically, not only have we have not seen it canonically in the G1 cartoon, but even if we did, keep in mind the artist's interpretation and just what the scene requires the two characters to do does vastly change the scaling. What non-show Beast Wars toys would you like to see get a modern update? I would love to see Snarl, Blastar, Spy Streak, and Battle Unicorn. So you nailed the first one that came to mind for me, which was Spy Streak. I really like that toy. I really, really like that toy. And yeah, it's got no hopes of ever getting a modern one, much to my chagrin, because I really, really like the design. I actually like its RID Night Cruise colors a lot better. It's not here. Oh, it's in the studio room. The one of the first toys I ever like fully customized was an Energon Sharkticon into RID Night Cruise, and it really works. It actually really works. But yeah, that would be the answer for me, is the Spy Streak. I'm trying to remember offhand if there were any other Beast Machines designs that were cool enough to make me go, you know what, that would actually be kind of cool too. I am blanking at the moment. Though. I don't know. I think I'm gonna stick to just Spy Streak. Maybe Scavenger as well, because like vehicle mode on Scavenger is crazy. If a new Rescue Megazord came out using modern engineering and could do everything the old one could do and more, how much do you think it would go for sold as a set? Sold as a set, you'd probably be looking close to like $220, like a combiner all built-in set, just because the level of engineering for a combiner that fully transforms like that doesn't really change just based on the franchise. You would still need full articulation in all the figures, which I'm in my head, I'm very quickly running through how the rescue Zords work. I'm pretty sure all of them could have some level of modern articulation. The yellow one is probably the hardest because the legs are made up of the scoop of the bulldozer mode. That one would be difficult. That one would actually be tricky. All the others I think would work. I think you have enough engineering and articulation for all of them. But yeah, you're going to see like $200 at least. Do you think the Transformers could cross over with the Marvel Cinematic Universe? They love to recreate comic book covers, and both brands aren't really doing well right now. Wow. Okay, so for starters, putting two brands together that aren't doing well right now is not a recipe to get both of them to work. Mostly because you need the popularity of one to leak into the other. As far as like if it would work, honestly, I don't think so, simply because of how much of the universe you would have to explain to make Transformers in the MCU actually make sense. Like, what do you mean you've been on this planet for the last 15, 20 years and you didn't do anything during any of this? You didn't help stop Thanos before he snapped half the universe? You didn't, like, you didn't help during, like, Ultron? We could have really used some robots on hand at the time. Things like that. I think it puts too many holes in the MCU to explain it away. Not to mention you have to explain Cybertron, Unicron potentially. I mean, Galactus and Unicron would coexist. That would get scary. What character other than Trypticon would you promote into being a transformable version of the Nemesis? One of my personal picks would be Thunderblast, because especially given her original depiction of something both terrifying, extremely hilarious about Megatron having to be able to solo a Titan so badly that his brand new warship has a crush on him. That is possibly the most hysterical mental image I've ever gotten from a Q&A. That's amazing. That is amazing. As far as who you would promote to be like a transforming nemesis, I feel like if it was going to be anybody, it would be Shockwave. It would definitely depend on which Shockwave. It would have to be a universe where it is the loyal take on Shockwave, not the schemy, like Starscream, but better Shockwave. Is there anyone else that would be good? Is there anyone else that would be really good for that? That's hard to say. Yeah, that's really hard to say. There's not a whole lot of Decepticons that are like would make sense in that role, you know? If only because there's very few options in amongst Decepticons that are just like fiercely loyal. And you wouldn't want like you would like you would want a like Soundwave level loyalist in charge of that, because anything else would be foolish. So like there is that. Hard pressed to come out there. Oh, if we aren't just thinking G1, my brain tends to go straight to the cartoon. You are referencing Cybertron, however, which means it's all fair game. Lugnut. Oh, that's so easy. He doesn't even need to learn how to fly. He already knows. Yeah, it's Lugnut. It has to be Lugnut. What's the most obscure Transformer that could possibly be made into a big Lego set? I.e., if they made it as far as 9th or 10th bot, what would that bot be? Most obscure Transformer that could possibly be made into a big Lego set. Here's the thing. Lego Transformers is very much for the casual audience. So when you talk obscure robot, it is stuff that you and I consider commonplace knowledge. So it would be something along the lines of a Jetfire, or at the very most, and I would actually love to see it, a Metroplex with normal sized minifigs as Transformers to populate the base. That would be fun. That would make sense. Now, I do think Metroplex is pushing it. I don't think most would acknowledge it. I think you would have to market it as like Autobot City playset and the like Autobot City Lego set with minifigs. And then the fact that it turns into a robot mode itself is almost a secondary feature. I think you sell it based on the city rather than just the fact that it transforms and has a robot mode who is a character. What else? But really, yeah, I think like Jetfire might be like the farthest you could go. You really couldn't go very far, like at all. You run out of like mainstream household name Transformers very, very quickly. We already have we already have Stars, we already have Optimus, Bumblebee, and Soundwave. They got, they'll figure out a Megatron of some kind. They'll figure out a Starscream of some kind, and they'll probably figure out a Grimlock. After that, who knows? In a classic Transformers adventure, you are part of the human allies. Your job is to help them by staying hidden from the public eye. How do you do it? Let's see. You know what I do? I keep a really big camcorder on me at all times, both to record their fights. Almost like a pro boxer has their fights recorded so they can see what they're doing right and wrong in the ring. So there's that would help them. But also any situation that comes up where it's like uh humans might spot the robot mode, I just whip out the camera and go and just start talking like I'm like filming for a movie, and everyone goes, oh, those are really realistic animatronics, and they just walk away. I think that's it. I think that's it. Just be ready to play it off as some kind of like movie shoot or something. Do you think Generations can get away with making a Commander class Thunder Clash with full size turret cannon doohickey if they do it as Machine Wars Optimus first? Machine Wars Optimus is such an obscurity. Like you would really be pushing the limits of what people are willing to buy just because it's named Optimus Prime. Honestly, Commander class is something for the collector, not the casual. They do that. They do an Optimus Prime because, you know, like obviously it's going to sell. So they do that to get away with it. But for the most part, I feel like um you could get away with doing Thunder Clash on his own, and then Machine Wars Optimus you do as a Gen Selects later on. I feel like Commander, you don't have to worry about mainstream appeal as much, because most of those, frankly, most of those are going to be bought online anyway. Let's see. How do you inventory your Transformers, i.e., pen and paper, digitally on a laptop, or in the order you buy them or open them? I don't. I used to categorize them. I used to keep like a running list of the Transformers I bought, and I would do it by like individual toy line. Like I bought this figure, I bought this figure, about the da 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 da. I bought this alternator, this one, and I just bought these today. And I would do it like that, but that just got one. I realized that updating it constantly, both for what I was buying and what I was selling, was extraordinarily tedious, and I wasn't really getting anything out of it. For the most part, my memory for my collection is pretty good. I know what I have and what I don't have. It's very rare that I like make a gaffe and go, oh, I thought I sold this, or do I still have that, or did I sell it? I don't do that very often. I usually keep a pretty good recollection of what I have and don't have. But when I did keep an inventory, it literally was just a notepad on my PC. I would just jot it down by the toy line. See, have you ever looked back on previous Q&As and thought, wow, that aged well / badly, some of your answers? I'll be real. I really don't rewatch anything that I make unless I absolutely have to. I'm the type who doesn't like to listen to my own voice or watch my own content. I'm very self-conscious of that kind of thing. So no, I've never rewatched most of what I produce, as well as like I know in the Q&As, honestly, they're just way too long. I mean, for you guys, you're hearing all this for the first time. Me, I know everything that's going to be said. So no, I've not actually had that experience. There was a listing for Age of the Primes named New Prime. Who do you think it is? The Sentinel Prime answer is incorrect. That was a different release. We pretty much know the answer to this now. So we have the Herald of Unicron on the way. That's officially announced. And they pretty much flat out said we're getting a Herald of Primus as well. They're stand-ins for these gigantic Transformer characters that otherwise are not quite viable at the moment, or they're just flat out not ready to do again. But New Prime is essentially going to be the Herald of Primus. We pretty much know that one. Black Shadow, Sky Shadow's gotten a few figures in Generations, but how come Blue Bacchus has never had a new figure? Because Blue Bacchus is not as well known. Well, no, hang on. That's incorrect. That's incorrect. Let me double check real quick. Because there is a reasoning behind this. I just have to remember Blue Bacchus. Oh, right. Yeah. So your reasoning for that is because Crossblades is an absolute nothing of a character. Like I'm like looking right now, their entire Marvel comic appearance history is 1, 2, 3 sentences. That is his entire fictional existence. Whereas Black Shadow gets to have toys because, well, Thunder Wing's just better known and more popular. So yeah, like he does, like, so yeah, Blue Bacchus, it's just the fact that his base figure is one that next to nobody knows about, and it's a pretender, which is automatically very, very difficult to get across to a modern toy line. Sky Shadow, like the deluxe one, that's kind of a given. Like they want to do a Thunderwing, so Sky Shadow is just, the go-to one to do. The weird one was Overlord. Overlord having a Sky Shadow pre-tool. That one was weird. That one was really weird. I don't think anyone predicted that. How could you? And I genuinely don't know the logic behind it. Like, legitimately, it makes no sense to me whatsoever why they retooled it in AM of all things. But no, I literally just think Blue Bacchus doesn't get any toys because the toys he has to be made from is just very unknown and from a toy line, a section of G1 that never does well. What is the worst faction leader for the Autobots and Decepticons? Oof. So there's a few. I mean, for Decepticons, you're technically looking at like Starscream. He's just way too selfish and way too rash to actually function as a proper leader in most fictions. But he has been leader in fictions, so like he does count. If you're talking like primary leader, talking primary leader, we might have to go into like the Scorponok realm. He doesn't leave much of an impact in the original cartoon. At least not compared to like Galvatron or Megatron. As far as like worst faction leader for the Autobots, the problem is most faction leaders for the Autobots are pretty successful at what they do, so they're really not bad at what they're doing. Like the default, the go-to answer there, and I even hate to say it myself, is probably going to be Rodimus, but that's just for lack of experience. He was a brand new leader. He was having to learn as fast as any Autobot leader prior to him did. So yeah, like that one, I think I have to go with that one. And I hate to say it. Though, yeah, yeah, Robert here does bring up Sentinel Prime, who was technically an Autobot, like Autobot Supreme leader for a time. So technically, yeah, technically that one counts too. He is absolutely worse. For how often they lose to the Autobots, why don't the Decepticons in the G1 cartoon have any medics or doctors? Really good question. Really good question. So it is true that the Decepticons you would think would need a lot more patching up, and they don't have anyone that seems to be responsible for it. Really, like Decepticon medic wise, you have two options. Uh you have Flatline from the comic books, and then you have Knockout. Both of them eventually became Autobots. It's very hard to have someone who is a caretaker, someone who is responsible for like medical healing, but also subscribes to an evil mentality. It's very difficult to get the two at the same time. So that's kind of why, because it really doesn't make sense for a healer to be a bad guy. Another example of that is there's one other medic. There's another Decepticon medic. That's Glit. A little like white Ravage repaint from Kiss players, but not from the creepy section of Kiss players. But that is again another medic who eventually joined the Autobots. Like, medics are just too Autobot coded. As of me typing this, I'm officially 19. Happy birthday. Since this was the Beast Wars anniversary, what would you have done to commemorate it instead of the Predacon multi-pack? Me personally, a Code of Hero Dinobot pack that comes with his makeshift hammer, the golden disc, extra guns, maybe even a spark accessory. So, I mean, one, I would have brought back Transmetals this year. But I was actually thinking about this. So there is room for a crazy Target 4-pack. We have not, I feel like it's been a bit since we had a crazy Target 4-pack. So I came up with this the other day, and I still like this idea. Admittedly, this might have to be a Generation Selects toy, but I still like it. And it is something I call the Against All Odds 4-pack. And what it is it's Predacon Rhinox, which is still never been a thing as a toy until the Masterpiece comes out. But none of the retail level Rhinoxes have ever been repainted into the Predacon colors, dating all the way back to the original Rhinox mold. You have Trigger Black Arachnia with the silver and the red eyes. You have Power Surge Terrorsaur from season 1. You know, when he got juiced up on raw Energon and took over for an episode. That one, you do all three of those in the pack, and you pack in one Maximal, and that is Final Battle Dinobot. I don't need golden discs, but I need enough retooling to show his like more significant damage from the cartoon, and I need his hammer. So that's what pushes us into Gen Selects, is because we're putting 2 Voyagers in the box, and thus in one of the Voyagers would require retooling and new accessory. But that would be the pack that I would make in Celebration to like cover 4 classic episodes at the same time, while also filling a lot of gaps in your potential Beast Wars lineup. I think I like that idea a lot. There was supposed to be in G1 Scramble City style combiner made out of T-Rex, Ankylos, Styracosaur, Pteranodon, and Dimetrodon. Concept art was shown in Generations Guidebook from 2001. Do you think it would be better alternative to Volcanicus, or how would it fit into the other Dinobot combiners? So, I do like the idea of the Dinobots having a combiner team if it is a completely separate team to the main 5. Now, in doing that, I would prefer to not just be another team of 5. I would like you to figure out some other way of mixing that up. But I don't mind the idea of a completely different team taking up the combiner role in the Dinobots. I haven't seen that concept art. I will have to track that down later. Let's see. In your opinion, is Generations Drift a must-buy, considering it's getting pricey in the aftermarket? I do really like that toy. Now, I want to say he's due. It's been a hot minute since we got a Drift. And we do have a listing rumor for him. For when, like, IDW stuff starts popping up in studio series. So potentially there's another one on the way. I would hold off on Generations Drift until we know what that one is. It might supplement what you're expecting. It is, however, a really good toy. I will say the Generations Drift toy is very, very good. It's a very, very solid figure. But as I haven't seen what it's going for on the aftermarket, so I can't really say for sure. See, how would you feel about how do you feel about Kamen Rider Blade? So Blade I had an interesting relation with. So I watched it. I tried watching it once. I got about somewhere between 5 and 10 episodes in before I dropped it, going, I don't get it. Like, it's not catching me. And then I went back. Like, I think like probably about 3 years ago at this point, I went back and watched it again. And actually it clicked with me a lot harder the second time. And I actually did watch through the series. I do really like Blade. Blade is a really solid season. Like, maybe not breaching my top 5, but I did enjoy my time watching it. Anyways, would like to sit this completely normal bench. No, thank you. No, thank you. Also, like, I'm almost like super curious now. Like your boy Tommaso is in AEW now. Please tell me you're one of the ones who just likes wrestling and will watch AEW, and you're not just a WWE stan who refuses to go over to a different product. Please tell me you're watching. Have you ever accidentally broken a toy while messing with it that was not a time bomb with GPS or clear plastic? Oh no, absolutely. Absolutely. So you never know with any of these, like, there's always like room for a joint tolerance to go awry, a mushroom peg to stick into place. I can't remember what toy it was. But like its its mushroom peg for like a swivel was so tight that in trying to force it, I literally just twisted the peg right off and just broke the toy almost immediately after opening it up and buying it. I can't even remember what toy that was at this point. You'd think I would remember which toy I ripped the leg off of. Offhand, no, I do remember. It was a Warrior class Earth Spark Megatron. I managed to twist that. Like, I managed to twist a piece off of that one completely. I don't even remember how I did it, but yeah, like I twisted a piece and completely snapped it off. Luckily, not a very expensive figure. Not an expensive figure. But I remember that was the onus behind doing the repaint of. Well, it's not the onus, but it's what got me thinking about because buying the extra was what got me thinking I haven't done a custom repaint in a while, so that's where the Earthspark Transmetal Megatron repaint came from. If you ever saw that on my socials, that one, yeah. So I remember using the busted one as spare parts to test paint and colors. So yeah, okay. So I've absolutely done that. I think that's inevitable. I can't remember if I asked this on another video or not, but since we now have all the Age of the Primes either out or released and we know what all of them are, I wanted to ask, do you think they should have given us a Zeta Prime toy based on the 13 from Transformers 1 instead of Star Convoy as the 13th? Not really, because I think we've proven with Nexus Prime that compared to the others that are more based on their original fictional depictions or their Generations book appearances, or actually the Covenant of Primus appearances, I think we've kind of concluded that the ones from Transformers 1 are actually very boring in detail compared to the others. I like the more complex look that the other primes had. It makes them look a little bit more primitive. It makes them look a little bit older. I think the ones from Transformers 1 are just way too clean. They're way too clean to get by, as part of the 13. I'm still not sure exactly how I feel about Star Convoy, even with my own headcanon making it much better. But I don't think adding Zeta is the right call. Zeta is not part of the traditional 13. So I don't want to throw him in there just for the sake of like replacing a Prime. I'd almost prefer a completely new character being the 13th Prime. I'm thinking of maybe going to TFCon Orlando this year, but I have no idea what to do or expect because I've never been to Orlando before. If you have any heads up, that would be great. Are you literally asking if there's anything to do in Orlando, the theme park capital of the world? So even if you don't really do anything else, like I will say at TFCon Orlando, it is a social event mostly. There's only so many passes of the dealer room you can make. There's only one panel of any sort going on at any time. So if it doesn't hit your interest, you are either browsing the dealer room or the artist alley, or you are maybe in the TCG room because there's usually a gaming room set up for that. So you do have some things to do to kind of waste time in between panels you don't want, you actually do want to see. But there is a lot of downtime. If you don't make it a con of your own design, then yeah, there's a lot that is not happening. But that said, Orlando is a plethora of things to do. Like, obviously it is. Like, if you don't want to do a Disney park or a Universal park, because that's a lot of walking, and that's an expensive trip when you've already come all the way down to Orlando, there are cheaper attractions that you can go to. Orlando has a pretty good aquarium. There's a lot of like little tourist trap, but like Orlando level tourist trap. So like there's a Ripley's Believe It or Not. That one was actually like, it's fascinating to go through, but it's like less than an hour. It's like less than an hour. There's like there's like a Hall of Illusions type place. Um, there's like literally like any kind of entertainment you could ask for. Um, yeah, there's like a 400-foot tall Ferris wheel. There's that as well. Um, but no, like you are chock full of things to do in Orlando. It's like not even close. And like if I remember right, this is at SeaWorld. Like this is the same like hotel you stay at to go to SeaWorld. And so SeaWorld is an option. I mean, and if you just want to like do toy stuff, no. You have Rebel Base, you have Gods and Monsters. If you want to drive 30 minutes north of Orlando, you are going to hit my favorite toy store, which is Acme Superstore. Last TFCon that happened in last TFCon Orlando, I did a meetup there. And nothing makes me feel like a rock star more than being in a toy shop and having 20 other people following my every footstep. Like that was probably one of the coolest experiences of my life. Don't know if I'm gonna do that again though. I might not make it an official thing. I'm just going to say like, hey, Friday before the festivities really begin at TFCon, I'm going to be here. I'm going to go to my favorite toy shop. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. But no, there's so much to do in Orlando. It's absurd. What are your thoughts on the new Blocky's model kit of TF Prime Optimus? So we talked about this in the news roundups. It looks incredible. And again, I advocate for designs like that to get non-transforming figures because trying to work a transformation into something that's supposed to look that smooth is nearly impossible. Ironically though, that toy, that Prime does have a really good figure that does accomplish it. But yeah. Yeah, you do have like, it's a really good set. It's a really good model kit. Do you have a favorite fan comic from the TF Mosaic anthology? I have never looked it up. So unfortunately, no, I do not. I do not. Truth be told, I don't really look up much fan project stuff at all. Like fan comics, fan animations, even like customs. People ask me like, why don't you do like a video on like different like custom Transformers you really like? Well, number one, roaming around for potentially dozens of permissions to use their photos of their custom pieces is going to be incredibly time consuming if I can even find contact information for some of these, because some of the coolest ones I've ever seen are like 9 or 10 years old at this point. I have no idea if the creator is still even on the internet. Things like that. So like, but the other thing comes down to is like, I don't pay enough attention to other fan projects. So like, that's why you haven't seen anything on like custom repaint stuff here. That's why you don't see anything on fan comics or fan animations. It's just, I keep so busy with everything else I do and create myself, I don't really watch what other people are making. If you could create a new colony planet, Velocitron, Beast Giant, etc., what would you theme it around? I would do sound, lots of music and instruments, alt modes. You're making Carnage in C minor. You realize what you've done, right? You realize what you've done. So, okay, so the thing with, Cybertron is it basically represents all the different aspects of what Transformers can be. So Earth for your modern cars, Cybertron for your futuristic vehicles, Beast Planet, Giant Planet's a bit of a stretch, but yeah, that's where your construction vehicles go. And then, oh man, I'm blanking now. I'm blanking now. Speedia, like Speedia for your race cars. So I don't think I would mind like a sky planet. Like almost it looks like a gas giant, but like there's like something where there's very little land or most everything is done over airship. Obviously there needs to be some kind of planet because you need gravitational center to create a planet. But something that focuses on aerial Transformers, I think would be a lot of fun. Because again, Transformer dogfights, something we don't normally get to see. Which monster do you most want to return in the Wilds Master Rank expansion? Brachydios. In like any question where you ask me, hey, what monster do you want to see return to Monster Hunter? The answer is always Brachydios, my absolute favorite. I like big, punchy purple T-Rex. Any idea why they never done a recolor of Cosmos and just call her Pathfinder? They almost never redo his UFO mode. I get they can't do the exact look, but it seems black and silver with some red would be easy to just do. So one, it's because we have a Transformer Pathfinder already. That is the blue repaint that D-Hobby did. I know the blue doesn't make sense, but it's what we got. It's what works. You are right. They could get away with repainting Cosmos to just be that. It would look a little bit similar. It would look a little bit similar because Pathfinder also has a visor and a mouth plate. So you are kind of approaching what the character looked like if you start doing silver and black there. Keep in mind, again, as I've stated before, Hasbro is going to do everything they can to avoid any legal liability or any kind of even risk of legal liability with their releases. Why would they tempt fate like that when they could just make some modifications to the overall color scheme and just, call it whatever? Much as it's fun to see the occasional GoBot repaint, you do have to remember most GoBots are incredibly obscure even to Transformer fans. So you don't really gain a whole lot by trying to risk a lawsuit. Just be a little bit more accurate. Do you think it's a good idea for mainline to be mixing characters across different series under one line, but instead dedicate the main line to just one series instead? No, I absolutely think it is a good idea to be mixing these characters, because I think if you stuck to just one series, it would be dreadfully boring at the toy aisles. I want that variety. I want them to dance around the fandom. Is it upsetting that, they would like cut a series short before they get to particular characters I want? Yes. Um, would it be nice to get like Kingdom style, where most everything is from a particular era or series of Transformers? Yes. I did like that Kingdom did that. Made it feel like Beast Wars was actually important for a change. But I don't think it would work any other way. Like, I like them bouncing around because I think that keeps the variety really good. Part 1 of 2 Weird Al related questions. Part 2 waiting for July. Good on you. Good on you. Loki is bored and at random chooses you to entertain him. Oh my god, I am so sorry. Your game is being forced to for one entire year to listen to one Weird Al song nonstop, except this is Loki, and each song has a unique twist. Which do I choose from the following? Oh my god. What are you? Oh my god. What are? This is okay. This is a funny question, but this is what I mean by like, don't give me like super long questions with these like incredibly contrived setups, like quick punchy answer stuff. We'll do this here, but like for your question in July, please temper it. Please don't do this. White and nerdy, but it's played backwards at 2x speed. Amish Paradise, but it sounds like a cassette tape is on its very last licks. Smells like Nirvana, but it's sung by the Swedish chef from the Muppets. Saga Begins, but it's sung by Christopher Walken with a mouthful of marbles and translated by a very, very, very much half asleep Bob Dylan. Yoda, but it's played on kazoo badly by a third grade class who half have the proper music, the other half somehow got the music for lasagna. Oh, and there's one random perplexed boy who somehow ended up with music for Spam and has no idea what to do. Dare to be Stupid plays normally, but every 15 minutes the song is interrupted by 10 seconds of French version of Barbie Girl by Aqua. I feel like you gave one of my favorite Weird Al songs, Yoda, the worst handicap, as if you knew it was one of my favorites. But in that option, it would probably have to be Dare to be Stupid. Because at least, like, I'm getting little bits of it. It's interrupted way too often, but at least it's, like, the right song occasionally. And I might get to like the French version of Barbie Girl if I heard it 10 seconds at a time. Okay. Would a combining MMPR movie Megazord work? I mean, you probably could make it work, but it really depends on the budget you want to put in to make it work. I mean, yeah, logically, yeah, you can pretty much make anything work as long as you are willing to put the budget in to make it happen. So yeah, like I do think you can make it happen somehow. If Blockies and Yolo Park were to both release model kits based on either animated or Revenge of the Fallen IDW 1.0 Lockdown, which of them do you think personally believe would do either design the best? Which one is sponsoring me this month? Because I will admit, it kind of goes back and forth between the two. I think both of them would do really, really good jobs. Don't get me wrong. I would want to say that Blockies would probably do the better animated, and I think Yolo Park would do the better Revenge of the Fallen IDW. I think Blockies is better at getting smooth, like more like clean detail, and I think Yolo Park is better at getting more intricate detail. Do you think in the future we should get molds of Optimus and Megatron that are exclusively made for Shattered Glass and or Nemesis Prime and Megs? Basically, evil Optimus mold and good guy Megatron mold. So basically what you're talking about is getting a new mold for Classics Optimus Prime and a new mold for Energon Megatron. And I absolutely agree with both of those. Both of them could do for a new figure because both of them are very, very good designs. I don't think they should necessarily be for Shattered Glass, but I really wouldn't mind if they debuted as brand new Shattered Glass toys. If you could rewrite history and bring 3 of the Diaclone Microchange toys that never became Transformers into the franchise, which ones would you choose? That requires me to remember all of them offhand, and that's not going to happen. The one conceptual toy that I really would have liked was that what one was it? It was the Jet Pegasus triple changer, because I feel like if we had introduced the idea of vehicle animal robot triple changers a lot sooner, that you could have seen a lot more down the line. You might have, because I feel like that creates such a more interesting dynamic than just 2 vehicles. I think that would have led to a lot more cooler options if we had that in G1. But we didn't get that until Double Dealer, and then that was it. When Transformers was on, it was like was fading at the time. If they had done it during like year 2 with the other triple changers, you could have seen something cool. It would be more ingrained today. Given that Hot Rod or Rodimus is meant to be the chosen one, do you think it makes more sense for him to be a born version of the 13th instead of Optimus Prime? Potentially, yeah. Like if you're going to do the reincarnation thing, it really shouldn't be Optimus Prime. It should be Rodimus Prime. The thing is that Rodimus Prime is supposed to be like a personal creation of Primus in the modern era, and I don't know if that meshes well with the 13. That's the hard part. He's almost like, because he is a young Autobot that is he was like in the appearance of Primus, according to like the older fictions and the original toy. Like Rodimus in G1 comic book and toy fiction is supposed to resemble what Primus looks like. He is that much of a chosen one that he also bears the resemblance to God. In that sense, it almost makes more sense for Rodimus Prime to be the 14th Prime, the 14th creation, the 14th Transformer created by Primus himself, and the first one created since the birth of the Transformer race. That would actually make him a little bit more fascinating. That would actually make Rodimus a little bit more fascinating and put even more pressure on the poor guy. But no, like it's an interesting question because yeah, like you raise a good point. But I do think there's a few other factors to it that actually would be fun to play with. In a hypothetical scenario where Hasbro stops producing toys and license it out to another company, it's what Chris Cox wants. What do you think is more likely to happen? Redo G1 incarnations to attract the established fan base to a new toy company, or reinvent the established characters so a new company can immediately establish their own influence on the franchise? I think the most likely thing is for them to just play it safe and just do new G1 incarnations of everybody. I think they would play it as safe as possible. Simple as that. Now it would be more fun if something like Playmates got their hands on G1 on like Transformer toys and started doing the things that they were doing with Ninja Turtles, which is try to keep them contemporary. I think a big problem with Transformers is that Hasbro is dead set on sticking to these aesthetics, especially in the vehicle modes, that were relevant in the 80s. It's been 40 years, guys. I don't think a modern kid really knows what a Lamborghini Countach is anymore. Like they're missing a very important element of relevancy and like what works in the modern kids market. I think a different company licensing it can take advantage of that. and actually create something a little bit fresh and unique. But yeah, they most likely, no, most likely you would see the same thing Playmates is doing. They have 3 years worth of Power Ranger toys planned. It's all from the first 3 seasons. Do not expect anything else. Do not expect them to get adventurous, daring, or anything. They are going to play it as safe as possible. If Mega Man got the Autobot Matrix of Leadership, weird. What do you think he'd rather be called? Megamus Prime or Rockimus Prime? Rockimus Prime actually probably sounds better, but it'd probably be Megamus. It would probably be Megamus. I think you should change your don't ask to validate a fanfic rule to don't ask to react or validate fan creations. You know what? You got a point. You got a point. That probably should be the full version of that disclaimer. Because, yeah, like, that's another one. That's another one. I do have a lot of people who ask me, like, do you think this would be a good idea for a fan art? It's like, you don't need me to tell you that. You don't need me to tell you that. Are you going to have fun making it? Then make it. Then that's all that you need to be concerned about. Are you going to enjoy doing it? Do it. See, comment is a comment. I've been wanting to ask whether you have listened to a song from a YouTuber. I've stopped myself because I interpret the no fiction rule to include the fan music. If it's probably like Transformer fan stuff, yeah, like outside of like Cybertronic Spree, I really haven't heard much Transformers fan music. If what would you do if you were to make a concept for Kamen Rider Super Sentai or Project Red? There's the kind of question that I do not want me asking. That is asking me for an entire thing. Like come up with an entire series on the spot. Nope. Nope, not happening. Not happening. I will tell you for Super Sentai, I would rather like for Super Sentai, I like in my head I did conceive something that's more like spy based, more so than even Go Buster, because I really wanted to. I wanted a series in Super Sentai where the Rangers were more independent from each other, so they're more like in competition with each other rather than a unified team. And if they work together, it is momentary and maybe not even like a full Ranger team. I think I would wait till like halfway through the series to actually have like all 5 or 6 Rangers at the same time. Like do something to shake everything up. But that's just me. That's just me. It's the only one I can think of offhand. Do you think Hasbro will ever release a new Obsidian Strike in a future generation toy line anytime soon? They are aware that people have been asking for Viacons. They are aware that they are lacking in modern depictions. So if they do one, they're going to have to do all 5 from the cartoon eventually. So yeah, I think it's a ways off, but I do think Strike and Obsidian will happen. Strike would make a brilliant leader class toy. I'll say that. What do you think about Transformers scanning the environment and changing their shape? Because if they can just scan, why do they need to transform? So, Transformers scanning the environment and changing their shape. I'm not a fan. If what you mean by like scanning anything around them to turn into it, I do not like that. I do not like that. So I like the Beast Wars approach, and I don't know why, when Beast Wars originated protoforms, that they didn't just stick to this as a general rule. You have a base body that is going to work a particular way, and you have to have an alt mode that is compatible with it. You know, um, if I am a transformer that is primarily a car, I'm not going to be able to fly simply by scanning a jet because I do not have the components to fly. I do not have thrusters. I do not have wings. I have I have motors for spinning wheels. That's what I have. So I'm always big on like transformers who are limited by what they can be because they have like a set structure, like how a normal robot would work. You know, it can only do so much because it's built a particular way. But yeah, I don't like the idea that they can just scan anything around them, if that's what you mean. Since we're probably going to get Helliverse news at San Diego Comic-Con, let's talk predictions. When Has-Been and Helva inevitably cross over, which show do you think it will take place in? And who do you think the first character from the other show to crossover will be? I don't think it's going to be like a first character thing. If anything, it's like I would probably say Luna and Angel Dust are going to share a scene first, because I feel like they would frequent the same places. I feel like they would go to the same places to hang out or party or drink or something like that. Um, honestly, it would probably be Luna going over to Has-Been first in that scenario, just because I think she would wander the farthest from the Pride Ring. Let's see, do you think the Sound Blaster and or Twin Cast need more representation? I personally find them to be cool and wish we'd see them in Skybound. I do think like Sound Blaster for a while. Sound Blaster was one of those flavor of the month type characters where they used them for like a year and then they just kind of stopped. So like the machine, like the Netflix series used him as an independent villain type, like a mob boss type, and that works. That kind of works, and I do like seeing him depicted like that, and as a separate character from Soundwave, no less. Twin Cast is a little bit harder. He's never been depicted as a separate character from Blaster. He's only been depicted as an updated or rebuilt Blaster. He definitely needs more representation because we've barely ever seen it. I'm just not quite sure how you would go about that without just copy pasting what they did for Sound Blaster. You think the Paddle Scar, Grimstone, and IDW Dinobot Strafe be better in HasLab so collectors can complete their Dinobot collection? Then in the future, they could add Snapbeak, Clanky, Trudon, Triplets, and Scorn. So that is a lot to throw into HasLab. I'm going to say that. That is an impractical amount to throw into HasLab. Also, you are talking dinosaurs. I really don't think dinosaurs do not have a problem selling. So I don't think you would have much argument if they wanted to do Scar, they could absolutely get away with that. If they wanted to do Paddles, they could get away with that, but frankly, they would need a better name to put on the box than Paddles. It has to sound cool. I don't think HasLab is the right approach to this. I don't. You need some kind of like, you can't just say like, here's a pile of Dinobots that barely anybody knows of outside of a few examples like Grimstone and Scar who have like actual toys out at one point. And just, hey, here's a bunch of Dinobots, $300, please. Just, yeah, like, I don't think that works. I don't think that works. Like, HasLab is just the wrong place for those. Like, you need some kind of, like, you need some kind of, like, credit to the name of a HasLab release. You can't just say, here's a pile of stuff, buy it. That doesn't work. That's a recipe to fail. I don't know how you get all those incredibly obscure Dinobots out, but they're dinosaurs. So there you go. Do you have a Shoto superset? And if you don't, are you planning to get one? The only like the Shoto Common Riders? No. Too expensive for what they are. If that's what you're talking about. There's a little nondescript there. If another series, TV show, or comic were to pair up Bee and Hot Rod like in Cyberverse, who do you think they would work as their third friend? Clipjumper, Prime Saw Smokescreen, somebody else? That, again, is down to the question, like, I'm surprised we've gotten almost 3 hours in and I've not been able to give this answer yet. It depends on how it's written. So, yeah, do you want this to, do you, like, which take on these do you want? Do you want the young Scout Bumblebee and the, like, egotistical young Hot Rod? Do you want the more seasoned hot rod that like understands and shows signs of leadership while having the uh like the young and brash Bumblebee that's the more action hero style? It really depends on which iteration of Bumblebee and Hot Rod you are talking about that would really make me go, okay, yeah, that's the third. That is the third one. I would say like someone representing like not Cliff Jumper because that's just two G1 mini bots and Hot Rod palling around. I'm not quite sure who you throw in there. I'm not quite sure who you throw in there because I wanted to be someone offbeat, but keeping a balance between the three. I don't know. Like maybe you throw in like a Cybertron override style character, like someone who can keep up with them speed wise and personality wise, but tempers them both. You know, like someone to be the voice of reason in the group. If you could bring Psykill into Transformers universe, would you make him a rival to Megatron or mentor? For Psykill, I would probably make him something of a rival. Like the Decepticons who do not feel like Megatron is leading them to victory or do not completely believe in his ideology might find something more favorable with Psykill. Like I feel like he needs to be like part of a splinter cell of Decepticons. Do you know of any franchises where the most popular iteration shifted over time? Do you think G1 will ever be supplanted by Beast Wars, Mighty Morphin, by Zeo, Pokemon Gen by Gen 2? It's technically two questions, but I'll give it to you because like they're kind of related in discussion. So it, I feel like the stuff that has to like the stuff that's forced to modernize tends to like shift the most popular. So like do we even acknowledge a Grand Theft Auto before number 3? And given that, now, do we acknowledge a Grand Theft Auto before 5? You know, things like that come to mind. Where like, yeah, like series like that continuously modernize. Um, I'm trying to think of something that's like more akin to what you're talking about, where it's like massive like shifts in the dynamic, and just like the later ones ended up becoming the more popular. That one is trickier to think of. That one is actually trickier to think of. But as far as like the rest of it, no. So the problem is that eventually the G1 fans, they're gonna go away. They are the oldest of the Transformer fans. Inevitably, they will all trail off for varying reasons. And it's all about what takes over in the nostalgia zeitgeist after that. And we don't know what that is. We don't know what that's going to be. But at some point, yeah, like G1's going to lose its flavor. There's always going to be some. There's always going to be some. You know, in the same way that people are always going to like classic depictions of Batman and Superman, you're always going to see people who are going to prefer G1. But whether or not that sticks around after the bulk of those fans are no longer around, then who knows? We can't predict that just yet. Do you think the Age of the Prime Star convoy should have been Commander class? Hear me out. Next HasLab is Fire Truck New Rodimus. That would be a wild pull if that was the next HasLab. I think again that falls into the way too obscure. Way too obscure. Um, I don't necessarily. Okay, I would have preferred it to be Commander just so it wasn't so freaking expensive and such a space hog. I don't like that the 13th prime is so much bigger than the other primes. That feels incredibly awkward. That I don't like. I would much prefer him to be able to be on the same shelf as the other primes without looking super weird. I mean, frankly, I would have taken him at leader class if we're going to be completely real here. I think it was a waste of a Titan. So yeah, like I'm kind of there with you. Like I think it should have been smaller. If you could turn a cyborg character from fiction into a transformer, who would you pick? Mine would be Cyrax and Sector from Mortal Kombat. Oh my god. Okay. I genuinely I don't think I have any answer for this. One, because you're asking me to pick from literally thousands of cyborg characters from across everything. But also because it's like 4 a.m. and it's very hard to pick a single cyborg out from my brain right now. Sector and Cyrax, not bad pulls. They would look cool as Transformers. Um, Honestly, if we do a Dragon Ball Z crossover, we are just like an 18 would be would actually come very, very close. I do want to say that technically this is already a thing because GoBots are not full-on robots. They are cyborgs. They have organic components. Their brains are still intact. So technically, Crasher or any of these supplanted GoBots, all of them are technically cyborgs that were turned into Transformers. I know it's a technicality, but it's still true. Do you think Transformers Energon equals Mega Man X7? As far as being the black sheep of the entire franchise, kinda. I wouldn't say Transformers Energon was necessarily bad. I think it was just dull and boring. Like, if anything, Transformers Energon would probably be like Mega Man X5, where it's just kind of there and doesn't really do anything new enough to justify its existence. Mega Man X7 would almost be like the machinima. Like Transformers Machinima would be Mega Man X7, just exceptionally poorly made. What's an alt mode that you wish Transformers would do but has never done? Or alternately, what mold do you think has TAC retired too early? You can't do that. You can't do that. One question. Don't give me alternate questions. Don't give me alternate questions. You ask one. So I will answer the first one, and that would probably be a bus. It's probably the most common vehicle you could possibly ask for that has never been done as a Transformer toy. A school bus you could do. A transit bus would be probably too boring. Be fun to do like a British double decker. That would be kind of fun to figure out. What is the origin of your logo? Did you come up with it yourself, or is it something you saw somewhere? Thank you. We already asked, I kind of already mentioned the logo. I already talked about the logo, so now we get to talk about the logo again. This is amusing me. Let me see if I can pull this up fast enough because it'd be really weird if I could pull this up fast enough. So the logo is not something I saw. I did not steal it at any point. It is absolutely my creation. The origin of the logo. Oh, please tell me I've got what. Please, come on. Please tell me I've got this somewhere. Oh, this would be such a cool point to bring up here. This would be like for the champions that lasted 3 hours into this to give you like something like really weird and out there, like deep TJOmega lore that you haven't heard before. I can't remember if I've talked about this before. But I'll bring it up anyway, as if it is something completely new. Do I have it in a folder? Oh, there we go. You're gonna have to deal with bright green on your screen, so I apologize to your eyes, but okay, so the origin of the logo is I used to play a game called Robot Arena 2. It was BattleBots for the PC. It was one of the first games that had like online lobbies, so people would put together tournaments. You are looking at the #1 ranked Robot Arena 2 player according to the most popular forum for the game. More popular than even the original forum for the game. That's me. I did that. The one video game I was actually champion level player at. So, um, I wanted my bots to have some kind of signature to them. When you played online, you saw this emblem like a transformer. No surprise there. And yeah, like this was like you could tell, oh no, I'm going up against Omega. Oh no. So I had here, this is gonna be way too big at first, so I'll shrink this down. So the original version of the skull, hang on. The original version of the skull emblem was drawn on graph paper, so it was very squared off, and that's what it looked like. So I used this because it was really easy to redraw and stick onto a low resolution texture. But as I kind of played around with it, and as I realized, like I kind of like I kind of like it, but I kind of don't, because the overall shape was just like it was like too harsh. I didn't like how thin and lightning bolt the side pieces were. I didn't like how much wider the top was than the bottom. Like it wasn't. It eventually started rubbing me the wrong way. So I did kind of take some inspiration from the Maximal logo in that I took a point in realizing that Transformers went from like a very squared off logo like this one, and instead started doing a more rounded logo, which I felt was a lot sleeker and a lot more interesting looking. So yeah, then you get the logo that is below me right now. I fixed the parts of the logo that I didn't like, and I just rounded the whole thing off. So you get this. So yeah, that's the origin of the emblem. It is not something I copied. It is not something that I saw somewhere else. It is 100% my own creation. So there you go. There's your deep lore for all the people who made it this long into the video. So why is it okay if a Transformer like Waspinator uses a part of his body, his stinger, as a weapon, but it wasn't okay that Bumblebee, the one that got the recent G1 Retro cardback version, to use the back of the car as a shield? Because the stinger becoming the weapon of a robot makes sense, because the stinger is a weapon. But also because he's not removing the entirety of his ass just to put up a defense. The stinger becomes a missile launcher. That makes all the sense in the world for someone who transforms into a wasp. A transformer who turns into a car. In a franchise that has been doing this for 40 years, takes an enormous chunk of the vehicle and just removes it from the entirety of the engineering, sticks it in his hand, and with no transformation element or shape to it whatsoever, says, this is a shield now. Waspinator's stinger at least is shaped like a gun once you get past the piece that blends in with the rest of the wasp butt. Bumblebee, using a third of his vehicle mode as just a shield, is the laziest engineering they could possibly have. That's why he doesn't get away with it. It's not a clever way of using a component that comes with its own, like, interesting element. No, it's just literally, here's a third of the vehicle as a shell, and we added a handle to it, call it a shield, even though it doesn't look like a shield and would not make an effective shield if he were to use it as such. Yeah. You see how, like, frustrated I get over something like this? Like, this isn't healthy for me. I am irrationally angry when it comes to that particular engineering choice, because I feel like it is lazy and pointless, and it's like, I hate, just take it off and call it a shield. It's so lazy. It's lazy, and most of the time looks terrible. Terrible as a shield. And considering we've gotten Devastation Bumblebee and Origin Bumblebee that didn't have to resort to that. I think I'm justified now. Would you ever try the 30-minute missions kits? They're like Gunpla, but more generic design. No need for tools. If I recall correctly, and I can mostly be done in 30 minutes, as the name implies. I have 3 Porta Nova and 3 and Libra Archer, and they're neat. They're also armor core kits, so that strikes your fancy. If that takes your fancy. I'm gonna Google this really quick because I've also never heard of a 30-minute mission kit. Oh. Okay, so it's not Gundam, but it's meant to be a competitor to it. No. So if I'm building a model kit, I want it to be something I actually care about and I'm attached to. It's extraordinarily rare when I buy a kit that I just think looks neat. So no, not my thing. Not my thing. Sorry. What alt mode would you like to see for Unicron and Primus that isn't a planet or some sort of tank or starship? You are literally taking out the only other options that make sense for Unicron or Primus. You're aware of that, right? Tank, I would love to see because that is his other alt mode from Transformers Cybertron. It's why they're using Herald of Unicron out of the Megatronus mold, even though it's a terrible idea. No, I almost want to defy this question because those are literally the only 2 vehicles either of them should be. I literally do not want to make a choice that is not either of those. Because anything else for either of them would be ridiculously dumb. Yeah, okay, no. God, I hate to just like flat out break the rule here. I hate to just flat out ignore the question when it really hasn't done anything wrong. But like, to put limitations on it like that is extremely unfair. Because really, once you remove those, there really isn't a suitable alt mode. Like, not at all. It's like I'm sorry, I am skipping that. I am not. I literally have no answer for it. You've taken away literally the only answers I could possibly have given. If you sold off most of them, but still have 15, let's see. They must have had a lot back then. Now I'm trying to remember what it was. What do I still have 15 of? God, sometimes you guys need to leave me sometimes you need to leave me a little bit of context. You got to remember these are very deep, long videos. I can't remember most of what I say in them. What franchise do you like the toys for way better than the media? There's a lot there. So probably Alien. I loved the Kenner Alien toy line from the 90s. It was like, as a kid, it was one of the first toy lines where I was like, I want all of them. Because I thought the aliens looked super cool with the animal aspects in them. I thought they had really well-fitting and cool gimmicks. I own 3 copies of the Scorpion Alien just because I love blowing them up so much. But the Alien movies themselves, I'm not big on. I'm not a horror movie guy, so the more horror-centric ones, I'm not gonna touch. And the ones that are more action movie are really bad generally. So I've only seen bits of Alien media. It's not my thing, but design-wise, I really, really like the toys. Do you think that those who are trying to get content creator of any YouTuber to pin their comment in the comment section so no good reason are just being stupid? I'm not going to say stupid. Stupid is incredibly demeaning. They are being short-sighted. I will give you that. They are being kind of like attention grabbing. Please notice me, senpai. That I kind of get. I will give you that. For the most part, I wouldn't call it stupid. I would just call it, I don't know, thoughtless. Let's put it that way. Let's call it thoughtless. See, since Marvel legally owns her, would Circuit Breaker make a good Iron Man villain? Since several villains within Tony Stark's Rogues Gallery were known to either steal his tech or try to replicate it, and Circuit Breaker is tech-based, so she figured she might be a good opponent for Iron Man. You would definitely have to rework her origin, however, to avoid lawsuits from Hasbro. So instead of Josie Beller having extreme hatred of all Cybertronians, she despises the technology that Tony Stark created and upgrades herself with cybernetic out of spite. You could do something like that. Circuit Breaker is definitely going to be a character that would be antagonistic toward Tony, given the right backstory. But given her, if her hatred of robots stays around, you'd also be a fierce opponent of Ultron. Now, there are versions of Ultron that are heroic. Last I checked, Marvel was toying with the idea of a Ultron who was heroic, and then you have the Vision, of course. So, yeah, you would have you do have like she would be opposed to any of them. It's the hatred of robots thing. That's what you have to get across. And Iron Man is not a robot. It's not simply technology. It's robotics in general, and there's plenty for that. The problem is robotics are usually the tool of the bad guys, like Sentinels for the X-Men, meaning that she would probably end up being more on the heroic side of things. You would have to do you'd basically have to redo her origin point so much. You might as well just make her a brand new character at that point, if you really want her to be villainous, especially to Iron Man. Can we just do like an exchange thing or something? Like Hasbro agrees to give everything of Deathhead to Marvel, and then Marvel gives everything of Circuit Breaker to Transformers. Can we do like a cultural exchange thing? What kind of all-mode Transformers collaboration should Buzz Lightyear or Woody be? I mean, Buzz is obvious, and they've already done it. It's him turning into his space shuttle, like specifically the one that he's packed in as a box in the movies. Woody is harder to do. Woody's a lot harder to do because you do not have a whole lot of vehicle options when it comes to the Old West. Your better option with that is probably a stagecoach. Like, you make him some kind of like covered stagecoach so you can actually fit his robot bits in there, and then you design it so that in vehicle mode, Bullseye can hook up to the front and pull the cart, and then when Woody transforms, you make sure he is size enough to ride Bullseye properly. So that is how you work that as a collaborative set. And then why not you make Bullseye have a robot mode? Why not at that point? Between Prime Arachnid or Cybertron Thunderblast, which would you prefer to be your female rival? Thunderblast, probably way less threatening than Arachnid. I'm probably gonna give that one. Probably gonna give that one. I know I had to throw you a curveball with a Japanese name for Serpentera, but made my day to stump you for yeah. I probably if on a better day where these videos did not take me 3 hours to record, I would probably have been able to come up with that a little bit quicker. What is your opinion on size class of Optimus Prime with the ideal availability and price for 2020? Deluxe Voyager Leader Commander. I generally prefer my Optimus to be Voyager. Voyager seems to be the sweet spot in just good engineering and quality for price, at least before the most recent price hike. But if you're talking like 2020 prices, yeah, still Voyager. I don't like him to be unapproachable or unaffordable. But I like him to have enough size to him to actually be like a robust figure. That's in 2020, 6 years ago. Ugh, that is actually Voyager class. Voyager class would have been ace for an Optimus Prime back then. Since Takara decided to just make their own Beast Wars 2 Galvatron, do you think Takara will stop doing JP exclusives like Roadbuster and Landcross, leaving HasLab to get more creative or obscure? I think there's always going to be a place for HasLab. Keep in mind, Takara does take orders for HasLab toys as well, so they are getting a cut of HasLab sales. They're not going to want to supersede it. But I do think that it is going to embolden Takara to do more of their own original releases that they don't have to worry about Hasbro importing. So that is going to cover a lot of potential bases. Road Caesar, yes. Landcross, that might be more of an engineering limitation, because modernizing that team would be incredibly engineering expensive. One that would be like right up the alley to do this, Rail Racer, because in Japan the Bullet Train team would do absolutely fine. If they want to do a modern JRX, it would work great in Japan because Japan loves their trains. But in America, where no one really cares about trains, ultimately it's a niche hobby at best. That's why the Bullet Trains were never repainted, because they sold so badly the first time. Hasbro never wanted to do them again. And like even Hasbro reps at BotCon have said, we're never doing those again. So if you want a better modern Rail Racer, Takara is probably going to answer you at that point if they keep getting bold like this. What is your least favorite Optimus Prime alt mode? Okay, can I think of all the others he's had over the years? Oh. I didn't like him just being a plain old car, and he's been a plain old car a few times. Not a lot. Not a lot. But Optimus should have a commanding size and presence to him that I do not think you get when he is just a four-door sports car, you know? I think you need to make sure he is a bigger, buffer, cooler vehicle. So yeah. Yeah, like I don't like when I don't like the alternative just making him a car. Put it that way. See, would it be cool if we got deluxe A-level Victory Star Saber in Transformers Generations? P.S. I would make Saber into a core class to make a level A worth it. And we totally want a deluxe Victory Star Saber. That would never work. Now, don't get me wrong, an A-level Star Saber toy would be really, really cool. Like, I would love to have that. Scaling wise, it makes no sense. Star Saber is a giant compared to everyone. He is like Jetfire size. So he is not going to fit as a deluxe. Much as I would love to have him as a deluxe. That does mean that Saber as a core class to make level A worth it also probably would not be a thing. They definitely wouldn't interact if both coexisted. If you want a small scale Star Saber, you have to be at least a leader class. Like, you couldn't go smaller. But that said, I would absolutely want to have a smaller, more affordable Star Saber. What modern video games do you think would be great for doing Transformers collabs? My personal pick would be Zenless Zone Zero because of the aesthetic. That one, what modern video games? The hard part for that to answer for me is I don't play a whole lot of modern video games to know which ones have good vehicles for Transformers. Like, my most modern series are like Borderlands, and that's even getting hard to call modern anymore. Like, the most recent games I played was the remake of Star Fox, and I would love R-Wings, but that seems like it's like cheating the question. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't know. Like just honestly, like modern games, I don't play a whole lot of games like that to really have like a lock on what would work. So yeah, unfortunately, like I don't have the basis for that to give a good answer. Since Studio Series is venturing into comic books next year, do you think we'll finally get Skybound Shredhead as a retool of Legacy Skids? We are going to eventually get a Shredhead. It's absolutely inevitable. It's absolutely inevitable. They put way too much into that character to not get a toy made. It is not going to be a retool of Skids. It is absolutely not going to be a retool of Skids. It's most likely going to be Voyager class. It's going to have to be a little bit beefier since it's a big van rather than a car. Because Legacy Skids is not a minivan. He's not a minivan. Legacy Skids is based off of that little like Honda City, I think it's called. It's essentially a micro van is what it is. But it's not going to be, Shredhead is not going to be a retool of that toy. I think even Hasbro's completely done with that mold. Like, it's been so overused at this point. If Hasbro ever gives us new figures of the Predacon Trio, Slapper, Gas Skunk, and Darkstream, will they release them in a 3-pack like the originals or individual deluxe class? Definitely individual, definitely one at a time. It's one of those like Insecticon style sets where we'll absolutely complete it at some point. What you would see as a 3-pack would be them repainted into their Beast Wars color schemes. That would be the multi-pack, and that would be a Gen Selects. You can rewrite these entire storylines in that order. Then what kind of Sky Omega Apex Power Armor Prime do you want to have your toy? No. What? Okay, I hate to end. I hate to end on a non-answer, but you came up with an incredibly convoluted question. And then you gave me this bot-ass comment. Like, I really do not like when people do this. Like, if you're going to post, make it something of substance. Don't just repeat the title and do something weird like that. It's like, it just looks odd. It looks like you're leaving like a tracker for something to find. But yeah, like, I hate to leave it on a non-answer, but this is not a question. This is not a question. This is garble. And I can't process garble. Okay. So we're going to leave it. We're going to say Ninetales had the last question. So congratulations to Ninetales. You had the last question. And it was a good one because I like that trio. And oh my God, thankfully I got to end it there. So over 3 hours, very long one this time. Thank you for everyone who stuck around this long to hear everything I had to say this month. So thank you all for participating. We'll see you again next month for the next Q&A. And as usual, remember, leave your question below. Please keep the rules in mind. Yeah, you should all know how it works by now. So I'm going to go find cold water. Thank you all for watching. I will see you next time. Hello everyone, I am Astral Agent Magnetar, a Tokusatsu VTuber, and I am streaming 4 times a week over on Twitch, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday afternoons, and a special late night one on late Friday/early Saturday. So come watch, come hang out, and let's make an impact together.